very good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to the pre-show of this afternoon's live safari, where in a few short minutes we will be transporting you on a journey through South Africa, quite possibly Kenya as well. We never know these days. All in all, definitely exciting things planned, but for the next 5 minutes you get to view us behind the scenes. My name is Jamie. This afternoon Craig is on camera with me. And once again, the open area outside of camp proves to be a veritable playground for the various animal species, up to their usual tricks, including, but not entirely, feeding and dust bathing. Oh shame, and these poor people would like to come past. Look, we've got a herd of wildebeest. We've got some zebra as well, which is also very exciting. So we'll start our live safari properly in the next few minutes. I have to tell you something. The Gremlins have attacked James's vehicle once again, which happens. It really does. I mean, I remember the days where we had to make use of the Mahindra only on these live drives, but to see poor James's face when it happened to him for the second time in one day, having just transferred everything back onto the one vehicle, and then watching her struggle to start, James's face was the picture of sadness, and I actually felt quite heartbroken for him. Poor thing. Twice in one day is really not cool. There's a zebra lying down there. Are you having a nice dust bath? There you go, you can just see the top of its head, sticking out from behind a termite mound. This afternoon, as with every afternoon, we are going to be joined by 3 schools, and I'm going to practice their names quickly. It was Centerville, North Londonderry, and I've forgotten the third one. What was the third one again? Hold on, everybody. Grady Brown. Yes, Grady Brown. I'm going to forget that. Hey, having a great time. Look at that. Legs in the air. See, I told you quarantine was a playground for the animals. They're all having fun. Apparently the temperature this afternoon, a warm 26 degrees centigrade, 79 degrees Fahrenheit. I always feel like a weather reporter when I do that. With a brisk breeze blowing in from the south. Yes, that's what it is. It's not a weather reporter, because they do the weather everywhere. It's an airline pilot. That's exactly what it is. The temperature when we land will be a warm 26 degrees centigrade, 79 Fahrenheit. It's raining out there, folks, so grab your rain jackets and, yeah, you get the idea. It's not raining, but the wind is blowing. I think the wind is blowing in a cold front. What do you think, Zebra? I think you're talking nonsense, Jamie, says the stallion as it walks away. Ah, goodness. Right, don't you disappear, please. We've got school kids joining us, and they would love to see you. I wonder whether or not Wendy's going to start. We'll find out. Oh. Opa's on his way, by the way, Lou. If you can pass that message on. Opa was the one who just drove past us. So...
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
It's a beautiful late autumn afternoon. There's a slight breeze blowing, there's clear skies, and the perfect conditions for a safari. This is safariLIVE. Ready? Standing by. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Sunset Safari. My name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Fergus, and we're out on our bushwalk, and it promises to be a wonderful day. As you can see behind me, we already found some of our first animals. Now, before we get going and get into anything, we need to welcome the 3 schools that are joining us this afternoon. So, a warm welcome to Centresville, to North Londonderry, and to Grady Brown. I hope you guys will enjoy your afternoon safari with us and that you will love every minute of the African wilderness. Now, being on a bushwalk means that we are going to try and see if we can't find some of the smaller things as well as a lot of the animals. We're going to see if we can't find some elephants for you on foot, as well as some impalas that we have in the background here. And so if you have any questions, remember you can ask your teachers and they'll be able to send us through your questions, and we'll try and answer as many questions as is possible. And for our regular viewers or new viewers, remember that you still can ask questions on #safariLIVE on Twitter, and we will try and answer those a little bit later after the school drive. Now, like I said, we do have some impalas behind us, and so these impalas are all coming out into this open area because of a bit of wind. So Fergus and I are going to try to see if we can't get a little bit closer so we can show you them a little bit better. And while we do that, let's go over to my good friend Jamie so that she can say hello.
A very good afternoon to all of you, and welcome on our Sunset Safari, starting off with some zebra. And a very special welcome to the schools joining us this afternoon. Kids, I hope you're super excited to go out on a live safari, because what you're seeing is happening right here in real life. Definitely real life, here in South Africa. So I hope you're all very, very excited. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon Craig is on camera with me, and we've started off our afternoon with one of the most photogenic creatures of the African bush, a herd of zebra. And they're definitely one of my favorite animals to sit and watch, just because they are, first of all, they're very pretty with those black and white stripes, but also because we actually don't get to see them all that often. So it's really nice to have found this particular herd on the open area outside of our camp. All of these animals are right outside where we live. Oh! What happened, big girl? Did you get a fright? I think that other zebra just startled her. Now she's going to go and scratch her chin on her, looks like a daughter, could be a son, it's hard to tell from this angle. Now, what we've got here is a herd of zebra, and the way that zebra work is the boy zebra will actually collect a group of females. So the male zebra will have a group of females, his harem, and he will guard them jealously against other males. And he'll also look after them and protect them. Those tails are swinging so beautifully in unison there. So somewhere over here is the male stallion, and he's protecting, and he will always walk at the back of the herd, and then the females will walk in front. Now, how many of you saw the birds that are sitting on the back of the zebra? Why do you think birds might be sitting up there? I'm going to tell you. The reason that they sit there is zebra pick up all sorts of parasites when they're out wandering through the long grass, especially ticks. Now, a tick is a type of, well, let's go with insect. It's a type of arthropod that embeds itself in the animal's skin, and it sucks their blood, and it makes it very, very itchy. And most of the time, it's not dangerous for the animals, but it's very uncomfortable, and it makes their skin very, very itchy. Now, those birds sit there and they help the zebra because they come and they comb through the zebra's fur and they pull the ticks out of the zebra's skin and then they eat them. So that's what the birds feed on. There we go. Now you see the zebra look quite pudgy. And that's because the way that a zebra digestive system works is they produce lots and lots and lots of gas. So it doesn't mean that they're fat at all. It just means that they have lots of gas in their bellies. Now, Karen, you want to know how much can a zebra weigh? They're actually very big animals, up to around about 300 kilograms, sometimes even more, which is over 600 pounds. That's a lot of zebra. Over 600 pounds of animal. So that's quite big. And they are very, very fast as well. So even though they look big, they can run as fast as horses can if they need to. But they're not horses. They're related to horses, but they're not horses, and you can't ride them. These are completely wild zebra, and if I were to try and to ride one, they'd probably run away from me. And if I still tried, I could get kicked or bitten. So they're not horses at all, even though they look very similar, and that's because they're related to, but they're not the same thing as a domestic horse, and you'd actually really hurt their back if you tried to ride them. And why do you think they're swishing their tails? Lots of tail swishing happening there. And they're doing that because they're sweeping the flies away. And there are lots of biting flies out here. They like to sit on the sensitive skin of the zebra. So the zebras swish their tails like that to keep the flies from settling on their skin and biting them. And Kylie, yes, I guess you could say that zebras are roughly the size of a pony. They're not very, very tall. So although they can weigh over 600 pounds, they're not super tall like like many of the different horse breeds that you get out here. So they are roughly the size of a pony. They're roughly the height of a pony. But again, as I said, you definitely can't ride them. Shall we see if we can sneak up a little bit closer to these zebra? Maybe they'll let us get closer and we can have a little bit of a closer look at them. And hello to Violet. Violet, thank you for sending through your question. Let's see if we can get a nice image for you to look at before we answer your question about the stripes. There we go. Hello. There we go. If I stop here, then they won't run away. Just at the point where they won't let me get any closer. Now, Violet, you want to know, how do zebras get their stripes? There's a young zebra. Now, the one on the left there is actually quite young. It's still actually not fully grown. There we go. But zebra are born with their stripes. So that's just the way that their fur grows. That's the pattern that their fur grows in. So you know how sometimes you've got different streaks of color in your hair? Well, zebra are kind of similar. Their genetics create these stripes when they are born. So they're born with fur, and already that fur is stripy. And they've found themselves a nice patch of shade because it's actually quite hot here. Even though it's winter for us, it is very warm. It's 26 degrees centigrade, so 79 in Fahrenheit. That's quite warm, especially considering it is midwinter. Now, have any of you spotted the odd animal out there? Because it's not just zebra. There's also a wildebeest standing in the shade. Our wildebeest is a type of antelope, which makes it different from a zebra. They are very similar in size, but they're a completely different animal. That's a young wildebeest. You can see its horns haven't grown fully. They're still just starting to grow. Ooh, Melanie, that is a very good question. Melanie's asking about the zebra, and Melanie wants to know how zebras got their name. Melanie, I have absolutely no idea. Oh, let me keep my head out of the way. That is a very good question. I am going to assume that I don't know whether it came from Greek or if it came from Hebrew. That's a very good question. I don't know the answer. I will have to find out for you, Melanie. While I do that, James has got the right idea. He's gone to visit a local waterhole.
I'm at a waterhole, everybody, and welcome. I'm very happy to meet all of you. Some of you probably again, some of you maybe for the first time. That is a Birchall Starling, and my name is James, and you can ask us any questions you like during the course of the next 45 minutes or so. And you all, as you know now, all you need to do is send those questions to your teacher, and she will send them into my ear, or Jamie's ear, or Tristan's ear. So that's a good thing. That's a very special bird, because it's so specially coloured, don't you think? It's called a Birchall Starling, and the reason, of course, that Jamie said that we had a good idea to be near the water was because it's quite hot, and that means there might be animals coming down to drink. The Birchall Starling, however, is not too worried about what he's going to drink. Actually, he's looking for little grasshoppers, and there are lots of grasshoppers around, and so that's what he's going to be eating for his supper and his lunch and his breakfast. And I'm sure many of you are very glad that you don't have to eat grasshoppers for breakfast, lunch and supper. Then we were also very lucky just now. We had a monkey not far from here. So what I think we should do is, once we've looked at the glorious colours of the Birchall Starling, we're going to go a little bit forward and see if we can't spot those monkeys again. Isn't he wonderful? Now, you know, I know he looks blue, and he looks green, and he looks purple, and all of that, but he's not actually that colour at all. It's a very clever trick of the light bouncing off his feathers, which are basically black. And isn't that amazing? Look at those beautiful colours. The sun is sort of dancing on his feathers. And there are lots of starlings that are that colour, and in fact there are lots of birds that are that beautiful colour because of that very clever technique of allowing the sun to dance off a substance that we call keratin. But you don't need to remember that. You can learn that about that a bit later. All you need to do is know that this is a Birchall Starling, and they eat lots of grasshoppers. Melanie, as I've just said, they eat grasshoppers, and that's what he's looking for. He's looking for some grasshoppers on the ground there. There are lots of grasshoppers around at the moment. And we're just going to drive down here and see if our monkeys are not nearby. We did see some just before I saw you for the first time. So I think let's just pop around the corner here. There they are. Can you see them there? Yeah. Sebastian is on camera, everybody. So when I said, do you see them there? Well, I'm also talking to Sebastian. Look at them there. Wonderful. They look very happy and relaxed. They're just walking along the riverbed here, looking for some fruits. They also will eat grasshoppers and things. There are not many fruits at this time of the year, but they'll eat some fresh green leaves sometimes, and sometimes they'll dig up the roots of, say, some grass species, and they'll eat those. They have lots and lots of different kinds of things that they eat. And they're what we called an omnivore. You know what an omnivore eats? I'm sure many of you know that a herbivore eats only vegetation, so leaves and grasses and vegetables. A carnivore eats only meat, and an omnivore eats both meat and vegetables. So I'm sure most of you are omnivores. Some people are vegetarians or herbivores, but monkeys are omnivores. They don't normally make too much of a choice. They'll eat whatever they can. And especially as we go towards our winter, I know it seems strange given the temperature out here at the moment, which is probably sitting at around about, I'd say, 78 degrees Fahrenheit or so. Well, you would be surprised to learn that we were in the winter time. But even though we're going towards the winter, it's a difficult time for the animals. So they have to try and constantly spend a long time finding things to eat. Now, Ivy, you have noticed something very clever, and you've noticed that the monkey's hands and feet look similar. Well, they look similar because they actually perform a very similar function. Now, if you watch this little thing, hopefully it will climb. Its hands, or its feet, look like its hands so that it can grip, it can hold, just the same way that your hands hold. Now, imagine you lived in a tree and you didn't do too much walking. Well, then it would be much better if you had a foot that could hold onto the branches. That's why monkeys are much better climbers than human beings. It's because they've got feet that can hold as well. We don't have feet that can hold because we walk everywhere. We are what we call terrestrial. That means we walk on the ground. Again, you don't have to remember that word, but just remember that we walk on the ground, and that's why our feet can't grip or hold things, and a monkey's feet can grip and hold things because it is a climber. It spends much more time climbing up and down in the trees than it does on the ground. I know these ones are on the ground at the moment, but that's basically why. Nyla, what a nice question you ask. Also, obviously very clever kids today. You say, how many monkey species are there in South Africa? There are actually only 2. We don't have many monkeys here. There's this thing called the vervet monkey. And then there's something with a slightly fluffier face called a Somango monkey. And the Somango monkey lives in the forests that we have here. This is what we call woodland. We wouldn't call this forest. And the 2 of them occur in South Africa. Then we do get other primates. Remember, primates include things like baboons, and we've got baboons also, and they're very funny to watch if you can see them. We'll try and find some baboons during the course of the drive. So over here we get baboons and monkeys, but in South Africa, the actual true monkeys, we get these vervet monkeys and then the Somangos. Now, my friend Tristan, very large fellow that he is, has managed to sneak up on some of the most common antelope we get here.
Well, James, we've been trying to sneak up to them, but it just goes to show you how incredibly good they are at spotting things. We've been trying to get closer and closer and closer, and we can't get any closer than what we are now. So they're in the distance slightly, and that's because every time we try and get a little bit closer, they're able to see us, and because they are animals that get hunted by all of our big predators, like lion and leopard and varying other ones, it becomes very, very difficult for them to be calm. And so what they do is they see any movement, and immediately they look there, and the whole herd will turn their eyes. And because there's lots and lots and lots of them, lots of eyes, lots of ears, lots of noses, it means that they detect us very quickly. So we're really struggling to get very close to them at all. They keep running away from us. But what we're trying to do is just trying to see if we sit quietly and we sit low down like this, then maybe they'll start drifting a little bit back. Now, Carson, you're wondering why the impalas have horns. Well, it's only the daddy impalas that have horns, and the reason that they have horns is so that they can fight with other daddy impalas and to basically get a dominance, so to make sure that they are the big boss of this area, and therefore they can get their best place to be able to survive. And so that's why they have horns, is to fight. It's not actually to defend themselves. You would think that they would have the horns so that they could try and chase off a lion or a leopard, but no, the horns are there so that they can fight with other daddy impalas. Now, the females, or the mommies, they don't have any horns at all because they don't need to fight. And so, like I was saying, because the horns actually aren't used for defending themselves, there's no need for the females to have them. But I see our impalas are moving away a little bit, so I think what we and see if we can't carry on. This herd is too clever for us and definitely can see where we are, so we're going to try and see if we can't find something else to go and walk, and to try and see if we can't find those elephants. We know that there were some elephants around during the day, so I'm going to try and see if I can't head into that direction. So let's have a look and see if we can't find some signs of them. We're going to look for any footprints or dung, and then we're going to try and see if we can't sneak up on them. But we have to be very careful because we have to use the wind to our advantage as well as where the sun is coming from, and make sure that we're very well hidden, because the elephants are much more dangerous than the impalas. Now, while we go and do that, let's go across to Jamie and see what she's got. But I think she's got one of the tallest animals we have out here.
I do indeed, Tristan. I have the tallest animal that we get out here in the form of this big male giraffe. And he's staring contentedly down at us. This has actually been a very, very patient giraffe, because I only saw him at the last minute and I've stopped right next to him. So he's actually let us get really close to him, and now he's standing staring down at us. And he really is very, very tall, and it's a big male giraffe, or a bull giraffe. And I know that just because of his sheer size. He's absolutely massive. And then, of course, the fact that if you look at the top of his head, you see those things on the top there? They look like horns. They're not horns. They're called Ossicones. And can you see how the tops of them are rubbed bald? Now that comes from fighting with other male giraffe. And his ossicones, or horns, but remember, they're not called horns, they're called ossicones. His ossicones are big and thick and strong, because that's what he uses to fight off other males. And what he does is he swings his big neck down, and he hits his male opponents with his head on the sides or on the legs. That's the way that giraffe fight. Now, Carson, you want to know how long is the giraffe's neck. Carson, a giraffe's neck is probably around about 6 feet long. So it's a really, really long thing. I would say that this male giraffe, from the bottom of his neck right up to the bottom of his chin, not counting his head, I would say that's about 6 feet, around about 2 meters long. Possibly even longer in a really, really big giraffe. And in total, he's probably, I would say, around about 5 meters tall. That's about 15 feet. So if you went and sat on your friend's shoulders and then they had another friend sit on their shoulders and vice versa, you'd probably have to have about, I would say, 6 or 7 of you, all sitting on each other's shoulders to reach the height of the giraffe. Please, please don't try that after this. I think somebody will fall down and get hurt. Oh, he's really very tall. Okay, there we go. Kylie and Parker. Now we've talked about the height. You want to know how much a giraffe will weigh. Well, there's quite a big difference between the females and the males. And in fact, the females are around about I would say at least a foot or 2 feet shorter than the males, and there's a big difference in weight as well. So a big male giraffe like this, he could easily weigh a ton. So that's over 2,000 pounds, over a ton in weight. A female's going to be a little bit less than that. They'll be around about 800 or so kilograms, so not quite as heavy as a big giraffe bull, but he could easily be 1,000 kilograms. So that makes them much heavier than those zebra. We saw the zebra earlier. That would make him, what would that make him? About 3 times the weight of a zebra. Oh, there we go. Another number for us. Will, hello to you. Will, you want to know how long can giraffes live? Giraffe can actually live to be over 20 years old in the wild. Obviously, in captivity, in a place like a zoo, the giraffe's probably going to live a little bit longer because there's no predators and they get really, really nice food. Whereas out here, they'll get good food during our rainy season and they'll get not so good food during our dry season. At the moment, we've just finished with our rainy season, so the food's still pretty good. But we're going to go into our dry season, so the food won't be as nice for him. But over 20 years old, sometimes up to 25. I don't know how old this giraffe is. I would guess and say he's over 10 years old, but it's hard for me to say for sure without looking at his teeth. Well, we almost got the biggest animal that we see out here, but James has found one that is even bigger.
Well, this is a smallish example of what is going to become the biggest animal out here. This is a young bull elephant, and he's all on his own. He's quite young to be on his own. I think that he is only around about 10 years old, you know. Maybe he's 11 or so. But he should be with the rest of the herd. Now, I'm pretty sure that there must be a herd around here somewhere, because 11 or 12 is very young for an elephant to be on his own. But he quite likes us. He's coming a little bit closer. Isn't he magnificent? Of course, when he's about 17, he will be on his own. That's when they go off on their own. And then they live a life that is largely what we call solitary. That's a really nice word. Solitary life. And they've finished spending time with their families. Oh, we've got lovely tusks, although they're not very big, but you can see they're very dirty. So I don't know, I'm sure your mum and dad are always complaining at you and telling you to clean your teeth and brush your teeth, which of course you should do. But this elephant has not been brushing his teeth, and those tusks are teeth. He's been digging with them. Then you can see also just a little bit of what we might call sleep in his eyes. Elephants do have tears, like we have tears. They don't cry, but they do make moisture out of their eyes, and sometimes it mixes with the dust, and then you have that sort of white patch there in the front of the eye. It's exactly the same as when you wake up in the morning and you find that sort of crispy, crackly bit in the corners of your eyes. Kylie, this is a question that's really quite difficult to answer. You say, why do elephants have saggy skin? Well, it's not so much saggy as it is wrinkly, isn't it? See, it's not sagging, it's not hanging off him, but it is wrinkly. And I think, and this is quite a complicated thing to understand, basically it makes his surface area larger. Now, I know that's quite difficult to understand, but basically all you have to remember is that it helps him to lose heat. So it helps them to not get too hot out here in the summertime when the temperature can often go over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. This really helps them perhaps to lose some heat. And so we think that's why they've got wrinkly skin. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Well, Ivy and Sean, you ask a very good question about why they are grey. Well, Ivy and Sean, they're grey because that's actually a really clever colour to be out here. That's one reason. You can see, well, you can't see so well now because, of course, it's green all around, and so it looks like grey is relatively easy to see. But it isn't easy to see. Grey is actually, for many of the predators out here, quite difficult to see. And so what you will find is that when it's winter time and the bush is very thin and all the green has gone, elephants can disappear almost completely. But the other reason is that to be any other color, to make hair that is a different color, to be able to, say, be red like an impala or black and white like a zebra that you saw, that's expensive. It costs the body quite a lot to do that. And if it's not really, really necessary, then an animal will not do it. Ooh, look at him. He's coming nice and close to us now. Now, Isabella and Lindsay, you're wondering why they've got such very large ears. Well, there's a very good reason why they have large ears, and that's because we live out here in a place where it gets really hot and there's not a great deal of shade. And that means that these elephants, again, have to lose heat. Remember, I was telling you about having to lose heat through their wrinkly skin. Well, those ears help them to lose heat as well. And it helps them in a really clever way. It helps them because all of the blood in the whole body of the elephant will pump through those ears in less than 20 minutes. And if you watch them in the summertime, a little bit like he's doing now, they flap their ears gently from front to back. And what that does is cool the blood that is in those ears, and that blood then flows into the brain. Oh, I can hear another elephant. And as I'm sure all of you know, your brain is the most important organ in your body. If your brain gets too hot, then it can't tell your heart what to do, it can't tell your liver what to do, it can't tell your lungs what to do, it can't tell your muscles what to do. And so you'll have difficulty breathing, and you'll forget to drink, and you won't eat properly, and you won't be able to walk properly. And so it's very important that the blood in the brain is kept cool, and that's why the elephant has such big ears. All the blood flows through the ears get flapped, the blood cools down, and then it goes into the brain and keeps the brain nice and cool so that it can tell everything in the body to work properly. And look, he's quite young, so he's still got a little bit of fluff on the top of his head. Now, it's a bit unlike us, as you know, when human men get older, we get hairier. Well, not on our heads, some of us, but all over the rest of our bodies. And elephants are completely different. When they get older, they lose all of their hair. Liliana, you want to know if elephants can be different colors. Liliana, I'm afraid elephants cannot be different colors. They are all grey. But sometimes you get a very, very rare condition called albinism. And that happens when you have a very strange thing that goes on but when the little baby is born, and it comes out pure white, completely white. And that means that it's not grey, it's white, and those elephants don't last very long because they can't survive in the harsh African sun. They need to be grey in order to not get burned by the sun. That grey is very helpful when they are trying to not be burned by the sun. So that's another very good reason why they're grey. I'm not sure why I didn't think of that before. There he goes, he's disappearing into some thick bush. He's going to go and see a friend. And so I think we'll probably move on from here. And while we do that, we're going to send you all the way up to East Africa, where my friend Brent is sitting with what looks like a dinosaur.
Ooh, there we go. Look at that. We're in Kenya with a Mara River monster. And welcome to the Masai Mara. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have my good friend Dangerous Dave on camera, and we're sitting on the edge of the Mara River. And you can see it's quite a dangerous spot if we were wandering around or paddling in the shadows. Oh, look at that one gulping there. What's it doing? I think it's just got a piece of stick stuck in its mouth. Now, when you see crocodiles with their mouths open, lying on the side of the river like that, it generally means they are trying to cool down. So they open their mouth, they've got lots of blood vessels inside their mouth, and a nice gentle breeze will cool them down. But there, you can see there's quite a few of them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out in the water on that side. And there's a couple more a bit closer to us that we can't see. They're just below the bank. And there's some hippopotamuses as well. Hello, hippos in the river. And there seems to be an uneasy truce between the hippos and crocodiles of the Mara River. Now, it's because it's such a unique thing that happens here, is that these crocodiles only really eat for a couple of times a year when the great wildebeest migration arrives. Oh, look, that croc's on the move. Might come back into the water. Here we go. Or was it just swapping positions? No, just swapping positions. Hi, Carson. Carson is wondering, can a crocodile kill a lion? Most certainly it can. As a lion can kill a crocodile, but if a lion, and the lions do swim across this river regularly, happen to do it in the wrong spot where there's a big croc around, it can get them into very big trouble. And a crocodile is an opportunistic predator and will eat a lion just as quickly as it'll eat a wildebeest or an impala. Oh, another bit of movement. I think they're just scooching about to the left, Dobby. There's another croc moving. Scooching about, maybe looking for a different bit of sand that's a bit more comfortable. Dusty is wondering, can a croc eat a turtle whole? Indeed they can, Dusty, and I've actually seen them do it. And at Djuma, where James, Jamie and Tristan are, I've seen crocodiles eat turtles. Not big turtles, but still turtles nonetheless, but they are capable of cracking open a turtle's shell. Now, this is also not only a very good area for crocodiles, but also for lions. And I saw some lions very close to here this morning, and I'm hoping I'm going to be able to find them again for you. So it is very exciting. They were probably about 2 miles from where we are now. So I think we're going to leave the crocodiles and hippos to laze around on the bank and in the water, and we're going to start moving off to see what else we can find. Now, there are some other creatures around before we disappear. There's some topi on the opposite bank, which is a relative of the hartebeest and one of the fastest antelope in Africa, capable of running up to about 80 kilometers an hour. So they're also sometimes called the policeman of the Masai Mara. Now, you would think, why would you call an antelope a policeman? He's not going to stop anyone doing anything. Well, it's because they've got such good eyesight. They climb up on top of the termite mounds, and they keep a really good lookout. So if a lion or a leopard or a cheetah,
even a hyena is up to no good looking to try catch one of them, the topi will start saying, I see you, and tells all the other animals that there's a predator about, and that gives them a chance to escape. So all the animals don't like the topi too much, because quite often he's too fast to catch, and he spots them before all the other animals. But we're going to keep moving, and while we do that, it sounds like Tristan's got something that there are not too many of here at the moment, but there'll be more than 1 million in a few short months.
They will indeed, Brenton. I'm sure you're looking forward to the arrival of all these zebras into the Masai Mara. But down here in the Sabi Sands in South Africa, we don't get quite as many zebras as they do up in Kenya, but we get small groups that have now just run away, because that's what happens sometimes. It's probably because the wind is blowing a little bit and they've caught our scent. But Ferg, let's see if we can't get a little bit closer. So we did have some zebras, but they are quite sort of skittish animals. They can see very well, so they can then get away from you a little bit when they sort of spot you. Their eyesight is so good and they'll be able to move away. Now, Sam, because ours disappeared, you were probably wondering how fast they can run. Well, a zebra will probably do, on good flat terrain, can get up to about 80 kilometers an hour. So they can run very, very fast, and they have to, because the lions also do about 80 kilometers an hour. And for a zebra, a lion is the biggest threat. There we go, Ferg, now we can see them. So they're just sitting there. Now we're right out in the open, so unfortunately I don't have anywhere to hide, so they can see me very, very clearly, and that's why they're a bit nervous. They know that people on foot can sometimes mean a predator, and so they're then a bit more wary. If we were in a car like Jamie and James and Brent, you'd find these zebras wouldn't worry about us at all. But from years and years and years and years of people trying to hunt them and trying to feed off them, they see a person as a predator, and that's why on foot it's much, much harder to get anywhere near the animals. You have to walk very slowly, and you have to think about which way the wind is blowing. Now, luckily for us, the wind is coming from where the zebras are to us, but we don't really have any cover. We don't have anywhere where we can hide, and when you try to get close to animals, if you can have somewhere where you can hide, then generally you have a lot better chance of getting a bit closer. Now, this herd that we have here will be one daddy zebra and then some mommy zebras and their babies, and that's how it works here. We have zebras that are a little bit more sort of stationary, and they stay in the same area, whereas in Kenya, where Brent is, those zebras move a long distance to follow the reins. So, Tejas, you're wondering if a zebra comes from an egg. No, Tejas, zebra is a mammal. Alright, so eggs are for reptiles and birds. Mammals are ones that are when they are born, they come out as a whole animal. So they are born from their mommy, and they come out exactly like they are now. They then grow a little bit and get a bit bigger, but they don't lay eggs. They give birth to live young. So it's not like a bird or a reptile that will lay their eggs. And you can see this is the big daddy zebra in front. So he's coming to make sure that we're not a threat. He's coming out to look at us and make sure that we are not going anywhere near his females and his babies, and making sure that they're very safe. So he's being a good dad. Well done, Mr. Zebra. Now, we're going to probably watch our zebras for a little bit longer, because they are the most beautiful animal. And while we do that, I believe James has found one of our pigs that we get out here.
Well, that's not a pig you're looking at, I'm afraid. That's an impala. The pig's just gone behind. Oh, there's a pig. There's one on the road. And it's called a warthog. Can you see the warthog there, everybody? That warthog is very similar to the animal. In fact, it's exactly the same as the animal that you saw in The Lion King. If any of you have seen The Lion King, that's a Pumbaa. Let's go a little bit forward and see if the Pumbaas are around the corner. Oh, a whole lot of them went running across there. Lots of them there. Let's move a little bit closer. Apparently. All right, let's go across to Tristan. We have a little bit of trouble with our signal.
Well, sometimes we have these naughty little gremlins that get into the signal and they cause things to break up, and it makes life a little bit difficult. But that's the best part about being in the bush, is sometimes there are these little things that make our lives a little bit more challenging, but it definitely makes it more worth it when we do find lots of things. Now, our zebras are still sitting here and we just slowly kind of walking towards them. I don't want to scare them, but I want them to just get used to our presence. So if you go and you walk every day and you go close to the zebras, then sometimes they can get a little bit more used to you, and then it makes it much nicer when we're walking around here that we can show you the zebras very, very clearly. Now you'll find that the zebra's tail is moving quite a bit, and that's because of the amount of insects that are around. So they are busy waving like that to try and get rid of all the flies that are landing on them, because it's very uncomfortable. Now, Karen, you're wondering why a zebra has a mohawk. Well, that's because it protects the neck area from when they're fighting with one another. Zebras have very, very sharp teeth, and they'll often try and bite on the neck of the other animal, and that means that helps just to protect there, and it's like a big cushion. So imagine if you were being bitten by one of your siblings. If you had a cushion on you, then your sibling can bite there, and it's not going to hurt. And it's the same thing with the zebras. So that's why they have that thicker bit of hair around the top of the neck, because when they try and bite, that's where they'll kind of go for. So that's the reason why they have it. There's no other real use for it otherwise. It's just longer hair that helps for protection. Now they are kind of moving off. You can see the males just at the back making sure that there is nobody coming and hunting his herd from behind. So we're going to probably leave him alone and not disturb him any further. Now I was hoping that there would be some birds with them, because there is a type of bird that spends time with the zebras making sure that they're nice and clean, so it will land on them and then it feeds off all the parasites. But I can't see any today, which is a bit of a shame, because normally they are around. So I was hoping to see them, but they seem to be missing as well. So we're going to keep going and see what else we can find. The other nice thing about being on bushwalk is that you can look at all the smaller things. So you can look for little insects and little bugs and those kind of things. So we're going to try see if we can't find some of those. Now, Nathan, you're wondering what the zebra's predators are. Well, here in this part of the world, there are lots of different predators. So we get lions, leopard, hyena, cheetah, wild dog, even sometimes pythons will go after baby zebras. So they have lots and lots of predators. It means that life is very, very tough for them. When they get big like that zebra that we saw there, that male, then it's more likely only lions. That's even too big for the leopards. But when they're very small, you'll find that there's lots of different predators that can go after them. Now, I've also spotted some other animals here that often like to hang around with zebras, and these are called wildebeest or gnu. And when Brent was talking about lots of zebras coming to Kenya, he means that they'll be arriving with these guys, and there'll be lots and lots and lots of them. And I don't know if some of you have maybe watched some TV where you've seen these guys all crossing the river, and the crocodiles that you saw earlier chasing them. That's all in Kenya. But here in South Africa, we don't have that many of them, although this is a nice group that we get on the open area. And the wildebeest is an Afrikaans word, which is the language that is spoken here in South Africa, and it basically means wild beast. So wilde is wild, and beest is a beast. So it refers to the fact that they occur in areas where it's bushy and that they are of a sort of wild nature. They're not something that you would farm with or anything like that. The nice thing though is that they're not very aggressive animals, so it's not animals that we have to be worried about on foot. They're not going to chase us or hurt us unless we try and go after them. If we stand like this and just watch them, you can see they're not really worried about us. They're having a nice feed and they're not too stressed about our presence at all. What you also will notice with the wildebeest is that their shoulders on their front legs are much higher than their back legs. And the reason for that is so that when they run, they have a far more energy efficient running style. So what that means is when they're running, they don't get tired as quickly as something like the zebra would. And that means when these guys move the big distance that they like to move and the big journeys that they go on, it's like when you go on holiday from your house to somewhere far away, the wildebeest do the same thing. And the reason why they do that is for food. And that longer front legs means that they are able to run for longer and to keep it going for a longer period. Right, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for our schools. I hope you've had a wonderful time with us and you've enjoyed all the animals of Africa. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. So we'll see you all again next time.
And so we continue on with our regular sunset safari. And of course, Day in a life for us means desperately driving around off-road, trying to find something. In my case, it means trying to find where Tristan left the lions this morning. Somewhere? I've been trying to follow his off-road tracks, but it's proving to be rather tricky. It's much easier when they're fresh rather than a couple of hours old, especially since he was the only vehicle that came in here. Okay, well, we'll figure it out. The Mulwati's over there. They've got to be here somewhere. They're just going to be lying flat in the shade. I think I found them. No, I didn't. So, send through your questions on hashtag safariLIVE on Twitter. Gut instinct says go that way rather than this way. The problem is I'm following an off-road track, but I think it's the off-road track from Taxon from 2 afternoons ago, which isn't helpful at all. And Tristan very kindly left a branch in the road, which was fine and well, until I got to a patch of hard ground with not enough grass to look flattened, and now I don't know where to go. I can't keep driving aimlessly through the block, though. Maybe I can. Shade. Shade, that's where the lions are going to be. For those of you that missed the sunrise safari, Tristan had a mating pair of lions, one Birmingham boy and one mystery lioness. We don't know who she is, and right at this point we don't know where she is either. I heard Tristan crunching around in here. I hope she's not in there. I hope they're not in there. That's going to be hugely inconvenient. In the monkey orange thicket. Okay, well, I guess it's back to the drawing board, which means back to where I last had Tristan's tracks, which are about a couple of 100 meters back that way. I just figured I'd follow my nose, but it hasn't worked out so well. Okay, I'm going to see how far I can disappear into this particular block. While we do that, let's go back to James, who at least has some entertaining animals for you.
Indeed, some entertaining animals. I think possibly the same herd that we finished our drive with this morning, if you were on drive with us today, and of course you should have been, even if you were at work. Very important to be on safari while at work, helps you get through the day. And they have they're sort of gliding slowly along here, half eating, half not, half having a little bit of a dust bath now and then. But we're just going to sit here and wait and see what they do. I'll tell you where we are. We're in the southern parts of Djuma and waiting to see if perhaps they don't want to go down towards Chitwa Dam for some water. I think it's quite likely that they will go and have a drink later today. There's also a squirrel alarm calling. They wouldn't be alarming at the elephants. Let's just sneak forward, shall we? Because we've only got a buttocks. And while, you know, if you're going to look at a bottom, elephants' bottoms are some of the best in the business. There's a leopard. There's a leopard.
That's what Kruger was looking at.
Bonjour. Bon après-midi. Sebastian, say hello to the leopard. I think it is Tandi. Is it? Oh, and Tumba. Yep. What a stroke of luck. Elephants coming up behind us, leopards moving off. This is wonderful. Andrew, come in. Andrew, come in. Andrew, turn around. We've got Tandi and Tamba here on the fire break, now mobile in a easterly direction. Isn't that wonderful, everybody? Tundi and Tamba. If you are a new viewer, these two are, well, they're fast becoming some very major safariLIVE characters. In the absence of Tundi's mother, who was our famous queen, unfortunately now they're moving south, and we can't go where they are going to go, I don't think. And they're moving because of the elephants just behind us. Just going to tell Andrew, that's why the squirrels were shouting, everybody. Andrew, she's going to pop out onto Gari Main now. I'm just telling Andrew, who's just driven past in his game drive vehicle. Isn't that special? Oh, they're going to go south. Well, I tell you why it's so exciting is that we were tracking them this morning and hoping to see them. And their tracks went south of our boundary a long way from here. Here comes the little one. He's not so little anymore. Gosh, that was a real lucky spot. So unfortunately we can't go south of the boundary here because this is onto a reserve called Little Gari, where we don't have traversing. We're currently on a reserve called Djuma, as many of you will know. And there go beautiful golden Tundi and her big-eared cub, Tamba. There he is. And I think, how old is he? Isn't he 8 months now? I think he's 8 months old. I can never remember when he was born because we haven't spent a lot of time with him. But we're now starting to spend more and more time with him as the queen has disappeared. And that's probably going to be the last view we have of them. What we are going to do, though, is head around towards Chitwa Dam, which is just over here. And there's a little road down there that we can travel, and maybe they'll head that way. Wasn't that special? Well done, Seb. Right, shall we head back towards those elephants now? That's a stroke of luck. I think there might be some viewers on that vehicle there. They're waving at us frantically. All right, let's head across to Tristan. He's going to help Jamie find those two other cats. We'll go and re-find these elephants.
Well, we definitely are going to try see if we can help Jamie with those lions, because I know exactly where we left them, and it really is not an easy place at all. Jamie's been going around in circles and is battling to find where I left those lions, so I'm going to quickly try and get there and see if we can't find them on foot. But we've got a bit sidetracked because we have a beautiful male giraffe behind us. He's really, really big, and he's busy just staring at us and watching what we're doing, and I'm sure this is the male that's been hanging around quite a bit around the sort of dam area and Gari Dam and the Vuatela area. I've seen him in the last 2 days on the dam cam. So I think it's the same bull, and he's been hanging around and sort of just moving around very slowly and seems to be one of the most gentle, sort of very relaxed giraffe I've seen in a long time. He doesn't really worry about too much. But you can see how good their eyesight is already from here. He spotted us and he's just watching us very, very carefully. And this is typical of giraffe. They're not like zebras or wildebeest that will move away from you when they see you. These guys will just keep you in eye shot, and as soon as you walk closer, they'll then start to move away. When they feel like you've crossed a certain distance that they don't feel as though they can get away from you, then they start to walk. But isn't he magnificent? You can see how well they actually blend in. If he had to move slightly to the right there, behind that tree, it would be quite difficult to spot him. And that's because of that sort of broken pattern that he has. It is very sort of difficult once they get behind a tree to actually make them out. And that is the point of spots, is just to help break up the outline and make it a lot harder to see. Right, we're not going to spend too much time with him because I want to try and help Jamie as quick as possible. I also don't want to have to worry too much about tracking lines in the dark, so we're going to try to get there while we still got really, really good light and see if we can't get a little bit closer. Now the reason why I know he's a male giraffe, just while we walking past him is because of his ossicones. He has big thick ossicones on top of his head, also darker coloration, which is not always correct to use for male or female, but most males are darker than what females are. It sometimes is a bit genetic, but you will find that males will be darker for the most part. That, just coupled with his size, that he's massive. That animal is probably standing about 5 meters tall. He's not, I don't think he's a very old male, because I was looking at him a few days ago. His ears are actually quite sort of whole and not too many cuts or tears in them. So I think he's a fairly young male, but he was about 5 meters tall, which is absolutely massive. Now, we are rushing to try and get to that area to help Jamie. So while we do that, let's go across to Jamie, see if she's had any luck while we've been with the giraffe.
I can't even find the road, let alone the lions. No, I know where the road is, I just can't get to it. I want to see what that is that Craig's just spotted. Hold on. Eagle-eyed Craig, from the back of the vehicle, has seen something interesting looking. Maybe I'll find the lions at the same time. Ah, Craig, it's not as interesting as we thought it was. I also thought it was a skull. 'Tis not. Some kind of a joint. Socket joint, not quite socket, like a kneecap. Get off me. Just a piece of bone. An old piece of skull. Oh, elephants. I was hoping it was the lions, but it's not. I think this is the best way, because otherwise I'm going to be wandering around, crunching over trees and breaking Rusty even further, and we can't really afford to do that to poor Rusty, especially if Wendy won't start. So we'll move onto the road, check that the lions haven't moved off, which is what Tristan has asked us to do. And then we'll come back in once Tristan's got back to where he left them. He did warn me this afternoon. He did say to me it's going to be rather tricky, unless you know exactly where they are, which of course he does. Whoa. It's going to be very tricky to find them. Now what? Can I get out of here? Yeah, we should be alright. For our new viewers who watch us drive, watch out there, Craig, that's going to hurt if that grabs you. For our new viewers who are just joining us on these live safaris, our regular viewers have got used to us driving along off-road. They know that we pick the trees very carefully that we drive over, young saplings that will spring back up in no time, or else encroachment species, and even then they spring back up. So don't stress, we're not doing any damage. No more damage than a herd of elephants would do walking through an area, so you don't need to worry about that. You need to direct me to the road. That's what I need your help with. I think it's just there. Okay, James has found a feathered friend. Let's go to him.
It's a ground scraper thrush, everybody. I just had a bit of a chuckle there, because it sounds like somebody in the final control is dying of a consumptive cough. I suspect choking on some delicious piece of confectionery created by happiness. Anyway, you know, that's what's called karma when you're eating while the rest of us are working. That there is the beautiful ground scraper thrush, as I said, and there's a pair of them here. And we've moved down south of where Tundi and Tumba crossed the boundary, and we're hoping they will come this little way east. But I'm just listening carefully. I can't hear any birds shouting, but for one or two little bits of chin-spot batters calling. And I'm not sure. Louis, how strong is our signal here? Just going to ask Louise how strong our signal is, because we might just roll forward. Okay, we're going to roll forward and just see there's a road here that we can look into Little Gowrie on. See if she doesn't cross that road. And maybe we will get another view of her. But the signal might drop. There are some kudu running. Now those kudu over there were the ones that initially alerted us to the possible presence of a predator. They were staring into the block, and we thought maybe they were just looking at those elephants. But actually they may have been looking at the leopard. Now, I suspect if I do find her, there will be a distinction. I believe, right, we're going to have to stop here because our signal is dropping. There is the kudu. No. Afshön, Minjan. Ifigil. Ingwela. I'm sure it found south. Okay. All right, everybody. We're going to head across to Jamie, who has found a road, which is that's a really good achievement in that area. It's not easy to find a road, so you know I think you should give her a big round of applause now.
Look, it's a round of applause. Haha. I'm giving myself a round of applause for finding the road. It wasn't that hard. I just had to pick a direction and drive in it. It was just finding my way through the thick trees. Okay, so we're going to check all around this area, make sure that the lions haven't come out, and Tristan's going to go bravely marching in to find them for us. And if I hear brrr, then I know he's found them. I'm joking. Chances are, because our walk team is very professional, they will spot before they're too close to the point where they're going to get growled at, and Tristan can direct me in from there, hopefully. That's the way I see things happening in my head. Whether or not it's going to play out like that is an entirely different story. I'm so happy that James found Tundi and Tumba. After the morning spent almost fruitlessly tracking them, we just were one step behind every leopard we tried to follow this morning. That's really, really wonderful, even if it was a brief view. I'm very happy about that. Let's see what Craig and myself are going to find. I could hear an elephant trumpeting off in the distance there. I assume that's where James was with Tundi and Tumba and the elephants at Twin Dams. That would be my guess. So I assume that the noise I'm hearing from there is from those elephants. So if we don't have any luck here, then we might have to head on back in that direction. John, I'm sorry, I had a little chuckle at that. John wants to know, do I think that the animals think that humans smell bad? I would think that perfumes and scented deodorants and perhaps heavily scented shampoos or conditioners, I think those animals must find that smell quite, maybe not bad. I'm not sure what an animal would smell that smells bad, or would interpret as a bad smell. But I think they would interpret it as overpowering. I think it must invade their senses and probably feels uncomfortable for them, because if you have such a sensitive sense of smell, I mean, all of you know there are worse things, but it is supremely unpleasant to get into an elevator or something with somebody who's slightly overdone the cologne or the perfume or something. That's just for us with our normal sense of smell. Now imagine it with an animal their sense of smell is so much more sensitive than ours. It's probably uncomfortable for them and very foreign. But as to whether or not they think we smell bad, I'm not sure. I'm really not. I think in our relatively natural state, I don't think they wouldn't think we smell bad, but they might associate our smell with fear. That, I think, is a possibility. I mean, I've been tracked many a time by an angry elephant herd smelling me, or us, actually, as a group, and following the smell that we've left behind. And it's clear that our smell upsets them. That's why we stand downwind from the animals. because our smell upsets them. I don't think they think we smell bad, but I think it scares them. They associate it with something very dangerous, and for good reason. For a very long time, human beings would have been hunters. They would have hunted, and of course, I suppose there's a small sector of the population that still are. But we would have been, as a species, trying to survive. That upright figure, that human smell, we would have been something that was threatening to the animals. Fortunately here, I don't think the animals are bothered by our smell, at least when we're in the vehicle, because they're not scared of us in that kind of setting or in that kind of context. Why, just yesterday, while we look at the impala, and a dwarf mongoose maybe, if we're lucky, just yesterday, I parked behind a vehicle full of guests that had just maybe, slightly overdone the amount of Axe deodorant that was wafting in my direction. That impala's looking very intent. Oh no, it's calmed down now. Had a very interesting discussion today with Lex. James, myself, Tristan and Lex all gathered together talking about impala and alarm calls. And the fact that during the rutting season, it sometimes gets very difficult to tell the difference. Obviously, it's very easy when they're making their deep grunting call, but when they make that sharp bark that they do, it becomes much more difficult to try and figure out whether or not they're alarm calling at something that's actually serious or if they're just going through the rut. And the reason that's interesting is something called distraction technique. And there's theories by people who sit and observe impala, and I wouldn't be surprised, because I've seen it a few times, but I haven't interpreted that behavior as such. Two fighting male impala, where one gives an alarm call in order to distract its opponent, which feels like very sort of low technique, doesn't it? Doesn't feel very sporting at all. But basically the idea is that one will snort and look at a direction so that the other one turns and looks in that direction, giving the first impala the opportunity to pounce. I think we need to keep an eye out for that and see whether or not we think it actually really plays out. Are they thinking that deeply about their fighting techniques? Possibly. That's like saying to your opponent, look over there, and then punching them in the back of the head. Doesn't seem sporting at all. And I mean, I suppose if you're an impala, it's not quite like being a human being where somebody says, look over there, and you go, no, I think you are. Thanks, Lou. I'll chat about the update I've just got in a moment. You know, if somebody says to you, look over there, you can go, oh, come on, and probably not risk being attacked. Whereas if you're an impala and you go, nah, I'm not that gullible, and then you get eaten by a leopard, you're going to feel rather silly in your last few moments. So it pays to pay attention. So Lou's just given me the update that the lions are not where Tristan left them. I don't know whether I feel better or worse about that. I haven't seen any tracks coming out. Possible I missed them. I'll do another circuit just to double check. Tormented zombie owl. I've often wondered about that. Tormented zombie owl says, well, surely the car's scent is strong enough to mask our human scent. It wasn't yesterday, that much I can tell you. Yeah, I guess that's definitely a possibility. But I think that the animal's sense of smell is so powerful, especially if we're sitting still with the vehicle off, that maybe if a gust of wind blows from behind us, blows our scent towards them, they'd still pick up on the human smell. I'm not sure. I think a lot of it is masked by the vehicle's smell and the vehicle's noise as well. I hear little dwarf mongoose in here. I would love to see them. I had such a special sighting with this group once with their babies. Eli, Yellow Bear, another question is, can animals smell fear? They can certainly sense fear, and yes, I think they probably will, if they are experienced enough, they can probably detect changes in your body's scent. I mean, of course, when you're scared, your sweat glands go into overdrive, your adrenaline increases, and if certain species of dog can sniff out things like cancerous growths, I don't see why an animal wouldn't be able to detect a change like that. Mostly, though, I think it's actually more that they detect changes in your body language. You know, they always say with horses, they can tell if you're frightened when you're riding. And I've found that to be largely true. But although it's usually with a horse that inherently is onto a sort of a misbehaving streak regardless. But they probably pick up changes in our body language very easily. And certainly if you run away, that's going to encourage the animal to chase you. But I think the animal would have to be quite familiar with you and with the human smell before they could detect the fear. Okay, good news. We've not just got the impala here. The dwarf mongoose have popped out. They've come out to play as well. Oh no, they're all gone now. They were in the road. I promise you they were in the road. Now there's just a hornbill. I think we're right next to their escape route. The dwarf mongoose, that is, not the hornbill. I promise you I saw about 5 of them in the road a second ago. One of them just ran across. Promise you it just ran across. It's gone now. Oh, another one just ran across. Okay, I'm not imagining things, I promise. While I search for imaginary dwarf mongoose and possibly imaginary lions, there's one person who's convinced that those lions were real. That's Tristan.
Well, I am indeed, Jamie, because I saw them, so I know that they are somewhere around here, but I've come to where we left them this morning, and there is no sign. We found where they were lying down, but they're not there anymore, so we're just trying to see if we can find tracks, but it is really, really not easy in this block. Where we are, you can see the color of the grass is perfect for this lioness and lion to disappear, and if they're lying flat on their sides, we could walk within a few meters of them, and as long as they don't pop their heads up and look at us, we might even just miss them, so it really is not easy. Also, we've got lots of grass cover, which makes tracking quite tough. But what I'm trying to do is just kind of follow the route that they were walking this morning, and just seeing if I can't find some sort of track that indicates that they've come in the same direction. It is quite difficult when you're walking through these areas to see where they've gone, but normally what will happen is any sort of predator or cat, generally like lion and leopard, they like to follow a certain sort of direction. This doesn't mean that they follow it the whole way, but generally it's a similar sort of pattern that they head in. And these lions the whole morning were kind of going northeast the whole time. So we're now just checking the northeastern side of where they were and going slowly northwards, and we're scouring the grass and hoping that from somewhere here one of these lions will stand up and we'll be able to actually see them. I'm actually hoping more for the male than anything else, because the female this morning, when she went flat in the grass, it was almost impossible to see her. The male, at least with that mane, means that you can see the mane a little bit, and if he pops his head up, we'll be able to see the mane over the grass, and that's what we're looking for. So at the moment it's all about just walking quietly and watching exactly where we are and just checking and making sure that we've got our wits about us, because we don't really want to bump into lions too close in thickets like this. So while we kind of see what we can do, and if we can't find these lions, let's go across to James, who's found some more elephants.
We're having a very special time with this herd of elephants that I'm going to call the tuskless herd from now on. That is one with tusks, obviously, but just over here there are 2 calves walking past. They have no tusks. They are quite small, but they're big enough to have just that first eruption of the tusks, and I think the reason for their lack of tusks will become apparent to you very shortly. Now, we've seen these elephants before, and the one that Seb is now showing you has got no tusks, and I think she is the mother of at least one of these, and possibly the grandmother of one of them too. Oh, one of them's got a little bit of a cold, sniffle. And they're just walking both sides of us. It's a very special sighting. They're so close by that I'm just being nice and quiet. Oh, look, isn't it sweet? And There goes one with tusks. She's got a slightly, I don't know how to put a finer point on this. Distended vulva, can I say that on live television? But if you look, she looks like she's in a bit of difficulty there. And I wonder if she is she's definitely not pregnant, I don't think. But maybe she's in estrus. This is a very special little sighting, everyone. They're just completely ignoring us. I think they've had their drink at the Chitwa Dam, and now they're moving away. And here is, I think, the lady responsible for the tusklessness of the herd. Laurie, you ask, of course, an obvious question, which I perhaps should have answered. But you say, why don't they have tusks? I think it's totally genetic. And sorry, this is the slightly younger one, the tuskless one. I think the matriarch, who is also tuskless, is the one going to come out here. Just over there. She's just slightly bigger, Seb. You see her there? Yes. And I think that's her. Seb, you're about to be removed from the car by this tuskless elephant cow. Seb, I'm afraid, was unable to swing past close enough to be able to... You can do it now, you can go the other way. She's right here. She looked like she was going to reach into the car and pull Sebastian straight out. Here she is. Magic Wolf, you are a new viewer. It's wonderful to hear your new name. And you're wondering, obviously, is this happening like right now? The delay between us seeing this and you seeing it is probably about 3.5 seconds. So yes, it is happening right here, right now, completely live out of the northeast corner of South Africa, the western fringes of the greater Kruger National Park, and you are looking at some elephants with us, completely live. How cool is that? Live safari from wherever you happen to be in the world. So you can see that the genetic origin of the tusklessness runs strong, or the genetic line of tusklessness runs strong in this herd. Now, we know, of course, that the females in a herd are normally closely related to each other, and so the tusklessness is not surprising. If we found it in one, it's not surprising that we find it in others. Ah, it's beautiful. And there, the astounding foot structure of the elephant, even when you've got a tiny little elephant like that, which is, they're not that tiny. I mean, they're probably, that elephant, I would imagine, weighs between 250 and 300 kilograms, which is a substantial amount. It's as much as a zebra stallion. Yeah, tormented zombie owl, I'm not sure. I mean, we were looking at that cow that, I'm not going to repeat what I said, but a distended sort of opening underneath. And you say, is that common in elephants in estrus, in the same way that males... Another small one behind us, just saying hi. Is it common, is it normal in elephants that are in estrus in the same way that it is for males who are in must? tormented zombie owl, I don't know. I've never heard of it happening, but we do know that males follow females in estrus. They pick it up out of their urine. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they were about to ovulate, that they should have some kind of discharge, using all the lovely words this afternoon, some sort of discharge which the males might then pick up on, and so I think that's quite possible, but I'm not sure. This is wonderful. I will just tell you that Tundi and Tumba were refound, and they are on Little Gowrie, so we couldn't have gone back there, I'm afraid. Let's just count the number of tuskless elephants here. 1, 2, 3. I think there are 2 little calves, 1 big cow, 1 smaller calf, at least 1 bigger calf, and 1 adult, but smallerish cow, if you know what I mean. So 1 big cow, who I think is the matriarch of this herd, her daughter, and possibly her other daughter and a granddaughter of hers, I suspect. How magic. What a magical sighting. Lady Starfire, there's some debate about this, and you say how, this is getting to playtime now, you say how do tuskless bull elephants manage to compete for mating opportunities when they are big? I imagine with difficulty, but I'm not convinced of how important tusks are for mating in the same way that manes are important in lions for mating. I'm sure they must play a role, but I mean, certainly an elephant with strong, thick, outward-pointing tusks is going to have a much better chance of fighting off a tuskless male. But those huge tuskers with those tusks dragged along the ground, you can't see them being effective for fighting. So maybe there is an element of peacock's tail in it, and there could well be, where, they're just an appendage that helps to attract females. That's possible, but I'm not sure. I'm kind of the opinion that those anomalously large tusked bulls, the ones with the tusks that reach the ground, are almost not freaks, but they're sort of aberrations, if you like, in the population. And I think that if elephants were, that much more successful with huge tusks, I think you'd find far more of them with large tusks, in the same way that you find all peacocks with long tails. So I think that the length of and thickness of an elephant's tusks probably is not necessarily related to their breeding success. And I'm pretty sure somebody's done research on this. I'm ashamed to say I have not seen any of it, and so I couldn't tell you for 100% sure. This is all coming out of my sort of general biological understanding. I think we should go around the corner a bit here and see if we can catch them coming out into the clearings. Right, we have got a message on the radio which I didn't quite hear. It was something like, while we reposition, we can link to Brent.
Well, there we go. No tuskless critters out here. As you can see, a lovely big herd of elephants. They're quite far away from us. It's just such a lovely scene that Dave and I could not drive past. And look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. Ellies under wide open skies. Some lovely little cloud formations around. And they're about to pass a poor lone shepherd's tree. I have just got a message from Jeffrey, who's one of the Angama guides, who I've been conversating with. We're in this area. I'm checking this side. He's checking that side for the cheetah we're with this morning, and he's just let me know it's over there. So I just wanted to see where he was. So we're going to have to shoot off quite quickly. We're going to show you, look at that elephant with the rain behind it. But we're going to try to see if that cheetah has had any success over the day while we've been searching for other things. And it is quite a drive to get there. So we're going to make our way straight towards her. And I'm afraid I didn't hear who I'm linking to, but from Kenya to South Africa.
Brent and I are having similar problems hearing things. Anyway, here we are with the elephants. We've just moved around the side of the thicket, and they are having a little bit of a play, the young ones, after a day of hard eating. As I was saying to the kids this morning, we've had 2 school drives today, I was saying to them how these elephants walk around all day long eating vegetables, and it must get very tiring. That's very sweet. We're just going to let them come slowly towards us and probably past the front of us. And they're feeding in the fringes of the woodland. That's quite interesting. I think you'll find that 3 weeks ago they would have fed straight across the grassland in front of them. That is the Cheetah Plains camp, Chitwa camp you can see in the background there, just in case you're wondering. And now, because the grass has turned dry and yellow and not quite as nutritious as it was, they're moving slowly closer and into the woodland areas where they can start to browse, eat leaves and bite off bark and push down trees and eat some pods and that sort of thing. She didn't like that, did she, Seb? Yuck. I think you'll find that if there is some kind of time to look forward to for elephants, I would suspect that this time is not one of those. I imagine the transition from easy or relatively easily digestible grass that doesn't have any bitter tasting chemicals in it, the transition then onto trees which taste very bitter in comparison must be quite a difficult one to make after the summer. So maybe this is quite a difficult time for the elephants. From a psychological point of view, there are 2 little ones having a nice fight now. Yeah, Chanel, I think it's possible. You say, would a tuskless elephant be at a nutritional disadvantage because it would be unable to strip bark and pull bark off trees as well? I think it's quite possible, Chanel. In fact, it's likely. But, these elephants make a plan. And we have seen, of course, half-trunked bulls very successfully living till good old, ripe old ages. We've seen tuskless elephants live to ripe old ages. But yes, I suppose it probably is a lot more difficult for them to be able to pick up and grind out the bark that they want to. But they'll do other things, They'll do other things like kick at trees, push them over, and in so doing break the bark and then grab that bark with their trunks. They will make a plan. It is amazing the plans that they do make. Just move a little bit further on around the corner. And while we do that, Pajamas Patterson has managed to find a stripy pajamaed animal, but it's not a zebra.
It's not a zebra, it is an antelope. It is a very pretty antelope. Although I quite enjoy the idea of them being in their pajamas with their beautiful white stripes. And Teresa, one of our viewers, once said to me that there's a local legend somewhere, I don't know, I can't remember where she said it was from, that the white markings on the Inyala and the kudu come from the fact that when they were created, their legs were so spindly that they couldn't actually support themselves. So the Creator reached down and picked them up. And wherever his hands touched the Nyala, they left white marks, which I think is a really beautiful story. Standing by, James. James, copy you. It was Andrew's update. I don't think he's there, but he heard the update. He was at 3 in a row pan. Sorry, I'm just letting James know about something very exciting on Cheetah Plains. He said he was going there, so something that these Nyala might not be terribly keen to encounter. Stunning. As for these lions, well, they've moved off somewhere. All of the antelope in the area are looking very relaxed indeed. You can see that these Nyala don't look concerned in the slightest. I think, unless Tristan manages to find them on foot, which is possible, I think that our best bet is going to be to keep circling this area until we reach sunset. And then hopefully, apparently it was Tinyo with the lioness, hopefully he will start to roar, and it'll give us a better idea as to where they are. That's how we found the lion the other evening, so hopefully it'll work out the same way tonight. I haven't found any tracks of them crossing out. Just to show you, let me give you an idea, because often we talk about roads as though you're all inevitably going to know what we're talking about, and that's not really fair. So, here we go. Here's the map of Djuma in its entirety. Just ignore the red dots. That's just sightings I've marked in the past. So there's Djuma. That's where we are over here. This is the southern boundary of Djuma. That's Weaver's Nest down there. And the lions walked up this road this morning. They went along here. They popped out here, and they've disappeared in this block over here. So when we talk about a block, we're talking about the space between roads, essentially. Now, there's a nice pan over there with plenty of water. Chele pan. It's chele, not chela, apparently. And they are somewhere in this area here. Now we just have to figure out exactly where. And it's quite a big area. I can't drive around there for, without having any kind of direction to go in. So we'll let the walking team try their luck, and if they don't have any luck, then we'll wait for them to roar. In the meantime, we'll just trundle along and see what else we can find. Speaking of the walk team and the various water sources, let's go over to Tristan, who's at one of them now.
Indeed, we've come and checked all the water sources to see if maybe these lions have come and had a drink sometime during the day. It was quite a warm day, so I would have expected them to walk towards water somewhere, but we've got the most coolest track here that is not from the lions, unfortunately, but it is still interesting to see. Now, when we came up to the water, there was this kind of line that came along here, and you can see it's wet, dripping sort of drops of water, really, and anyone have a guess as to what this is? So we're going to use this as our tracking quiz for today. We can do hashtag safariLIVE as to what has caused that water to drop out. Now, I at first thought maybe it was something that was drinking, so I was trying to just see if there was big tracks of an animal, and there are big tracks, but it's not from that. So the big track that there is here is the buffalo track over here. So you can see this is quite a fresh buffalo track, and we actually found tracks of the buffalo coming out of the block. So here's its edge, the toe going in there, and then round like this. And the buffalo track that we did find was running out, but that's not actually what made this sort of droplets of water coming out. Now, it's something quite interesting, which we'll get to just now. And the other thing that is quite cool that we can see over here is another very interesting little track. That is a track from a frog. Alright, so that's the back foot of a frog, long toe going forward and two shorter toes, where the frog would have sat like this and then been able to drink. So it's quite, go jump into the water. So there's some cool tracks that are all around. Ooh, machine gun nest. This is an interesting question. You want to know how many water holes there are at Djuma. Well, it depends what we sort of describe as a water hole. Things like this are not really water holes. These are just natural pan systems that are filled with water during the rain of the summer, but are not really something that's going to hold water all year round. So if we had to count these in, there are many, 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 many. But in terms of really big water sources for Djuma itself, we have Buffelshoek Dam, we have Twin Dams, we have Djuma Pan or Gowrie Dam, and we have Treehouse Dam. Dam. Those are the four kind of big ones. Sydney's Dam, I suppose we can see it from Djuma, but it doesn't actually lie on Djuma. It's inside Buffalo's Hook. But those are the big ones. Then dotted around are these smaller little pan systems, and this will hold water probably for another month or two, but by the end of the winter there really won't be too much left here, and you'll find that none of the animals will use this. And that's when things are going to start concentrating very heavily around Treehouse, Twin Dams, Gowrie Dam, and those areas. Now, I'm going to cross 2,500 miles all the way to Brent with okay, we're not going to go to Brent just yet because Brent apparently may have lost a bit of signal. But any answers to our quiz, Lou, while we're standing here waiting to see if Brent can get his signal back? Apparently not. All right. So we're going to just have a look then. I'll give you all the answers because it seems that there haven't been any answers just yet. But if we have a look here, we've got a footprint in the sand here. Now, there is a very deep little ending to it, and if you have a look at the back here, there is a little circle at the back over here and over here. Now that should be a good indicator as to what this is. This is the area where that animal was actually lying. So it was a warthog that was busy wallowing, and these dew claws at the back are very prominent in warthog tracks. And as the warthog was wallowing and then ran away, it left this sort of mud trail going away from here, which is very cool. It's something you normally see with elephants. Now, like I was saying, we're going to go 2,500 miles all the way to Brent, who's got probably one of the most beautiful cats that we get in Africa.
So, thanks to Jeffrey, we are right in the spot. Jeffrey is one of the Ngama guides, and we've caught up again with this beautiful female cheetah who's eyeing a herd of Thompson's gazelles. There they are. Now, there's a bit too much open ground between where she is and where they are for her to make a successful hunt at the moment. So it looks like she hasn't had a successful day. Now, remember, this is 100% live, coming to you from the Mara Triangle in Kenya's Masai National Reserve. And we're with a hungry female cheetah who's keeping a close eye on some Thompson's gazelles. Now, what she'll want is for them to move into slightly longer grass, which it looks like they're doing. So I'm going to keep a close eye on her because she might move quite quickly into a position where she might be able to successfully stalk them. Remember, hashtag safariLIVE if you've got any questions for us. Now let's see what she gets up to now. Looks like she's contemplating a move. The Tommies are not facing her at the moment, and they are jogging off into longer grass. Now, I'm not sure if they spotted her before we arrived. I don't think so. But when you're a Thompson's gazelle, being a nervous Nelly is a good thing. It keeps you alive. Okay, she's on the move. She's on the move. So as they've moved into that longer grass, look at that, isn't she absolutely gorgeous? Not quite sure of her name. So what I'm going to do, Dave, is because otherwise we're going to lose her, I'm just going to reverse quickly. So we've got a full sweep, because she might go at any second. I got it. Let me just get on the right side of the termite mound. Okay. There we go. She's on the move. She's off. She's probably 55, 60 meters. She's on the move again. She's getting closer, and this long grass is playing into her advantage. There she goes. She's about to hit full speed. There she goes. She's coming right towards us. She's right on that male Thompson's gazelle's tail. Oh no, he's going to get away. Oh dearie me, my poor girl. That was so close. Wow. Unbelievable. Oh, flop down. Oh, shame, my girl. That was so close. Let me just get a little bit closer. Oh, dearie me. Oh, she's giving us heart failure she's giving us heart failure this afternoon and this morning. So close. So close. Tommy's living on borrowed time at the moment. I'm just going to stop shortly. I just need to get through this big ditch. Hold on. And Jeffrey's just going to go in front of us. He's the man who called us to tell us that he had found her. We're both looking for her on different sides. Look at that. She's actually lucky. She's actually lucky she didn't catch that Thompson's gazelle, because there we go. One of the marauding members of the North clan of hyenas would have been right on her in a second. You see that, the marauding North clan member? Oh, she's lucky. She would have lost that kill in a second with the marauding hyenas here. Now, this whole area is actually a swamp during most of the year, and I can't remember the name of it. It's quite a long name, but I've been nicknaming it the Clan Lands because there are so many hyenas. There we go. It is called the Olpunyata Swamp, is where we are at the moment, but there's over 80 hyenas from the North Clan spread through here, so it's probably not the best place. So look at that. I mean, I often say as we... Oh, I got this upside down. There we go. Sorry, I'm in the way there. So often as we drive down here, you can sometimes see 15 or 20 hyena heads just pop up. H. Macy, how are you? H. Macy is wondering how many cheetah there are there in the Mara. And, well, I know for certain in the Mara Triangle, there's at least 3 females and 3 males. There's probably quite a few more. Those are the only ones I know about so far. But there is always the chance there could be more. I am waiting for the exact information from the Cheetah Research Project. They unfortunately are away at the moment. So as soon as they're back, I will be able to find out all that. But I know about this female, Mlima, a female I've seen, another female that I'm not sure of. She doesn't think she has a name, and then two male cheetah called the Olololo boys, which are further down south. But there are definitely more cheetah on the other side of the river, outside of the triangle. Now, it could be just the density of lions here, and hyenas is quite thick, and that's why. And there we go. Davy, how was that for you? Heart racing. She came straight towards us. It was amazing. So guys, how about that? One word tweet. Hashtag safariLIVE. Are you okay, Dave?
Yeah, I'm good.
What happened to you?
I've got something in my eye.
Dave, I thought he was crying with emotion.
Not quite.
Dave has got something in his eye. I thought he was crying with emotion, but no, he's just crying with a bug in the eye and the tears of joy of the thrill of a cheetah chase. So hashtag safariLIVE, one word tweet. How did that cheetah chase make you feel? She came right towards us. Oh, and Final Control thinks Dave is actually crying and he's just trying to make excuses. David, do you want a tissue?
Please.
Do we have any tissues?
I don't think so.
We don't have. Want to get...
Don't worry.
Are you okay? Michael's wondering what percentage of cheetah hunts actually end in failure. Well, Michael, generally the cheetah are a little more successful than lion and leopard and hyena. The problem is they're not very successful at keeping their kills. As you saw, if she had caught that, a single hyena would have easily been able to chase her off. And if you hear some funny noises, it's Dave trying to get some water to wash out his eye. I would say probably on average, they're still not incredibly successful, but they are more successful. So I'd say failure probably 70% of the time or 65% of the time. But and again, you must remember that those sort of statistics are often area dependent rather than species dependent. So a cheetah in this area might be more successful than a cheetah on the other side of the river, or even in the Serengeti or the Sabi Sands. So it is all very dependent on the area rather than the individual animal. So it is fascinating to watch, and of course we're all learning together here in the Masai Mara. So if we had to go on the amount of cheetah hunts I've seen, I would say they are successful 25% of the time, because I've seen 4 chases and 1 kill. But of course, we haven't spent that much time with all the cheetah yet. So really only this female, who I can't wait to find out what her name is, and Mlima down south on the Tanzanian border, where unfortunately we don't have the ability to broadcast yet. Now, John is wondering if she possibly spotted the hyena and that's why she gave up on her chase. I think she's just spotted the hyena now. John, I can just see her body language change a little bit. She's staring straight at the hyena. There he is. As the hyena lifted its head, I think she spotted it. I would say if she did spot a hyena, she probably would pull out of the chase. It's a definite possibility that she would do that. So, yeah, she's definitely spotted the hyena now. You can just see her body language has changed a bit. She's looking a little bit less comfortable than she was a few moments ago. You can see she wants to sneak away without drawing too much attention to herself. Look at that. So I don't think she saw the hyena during the chase. I think she's just seen the hyena now, and she's trying to slink away because, of course, any hyena near her while she's on the hunt. Look at her. See how she's trying to keep low below the grass. Hyena's up, wants to check where she's going. Doesn't want to let a free meal pass him by, or her by. And the hyena's going to is following. She might take off. I might need to move the vehicle. I'm just going to see what's happening now. And, I mean, that's what makes hyenas one of the most ultimate predators. They're definitely, in my opinion, the most intelligent of all the apex predators we get in Africa. And their problem-solving capabilities are incredible. Okay, I'm just going to move the car quickly. Davy, you stopped crying. Dave has stopped crying. If anyone was worried about Dave, he has stopped crying. Oh, it's okay. It's okay, Davy. Okay, so she's slinking off behind us. Okay, I might get into frame. I apologize, but I have to disappear down my turret. There she's running off to the right, Dave, you see her? So the hyena has lost sight of her, and as soon as she made sure she was far enough away, so the hyena's off in front of us, as soon as she made sure she was far enough away from the hyena, she made a dash for it. I'm just going to go see if we can keep up with her. Okay, let me just concentrate for a second. So, one more bump. Okay, so, bye guys. Safari Live, yes. Dave, I'm trying to pop my head out of the turret. Hi guys, bye guys. Nice surprise with James. It's also got spots.
Hello everybody, what a smorgasbord of beautiful cat action we're having. You're about to have the arrival of Inkanyeni, mother to Vutomi, consort of Quarantine, and just generally all-round nice girl. Isn't that beautiful? Of her looking through the grass here. And like I say, what a smorgasbord we've had. Cheetahs. 3 leopards now, just the 3. The most perfect golden light. Oh, wonderful stuff. All right, let's get the other side of her again so we can catch the last bits of the light. Sorry, Seb, I couldn't get out of the way fast enough there. Marvelous, marvelous, marvelous stuff. very kindly created a clearing for us to get through. Might be a new leopard for some of you. And she's not often seen, you know. She spends a lot of her time in the Kruger, which is not far from where we are here on Cheetah Plains. There she comes. You got her there, Seb? Ah, gorgeous. Yeah. The very first sort of leopard picture I took, and they're leaving her, we've got her to ourselves. The very first sort of relatively decent leopard picture I took was of this leopardess. And she was standing exactly like she's standing there. That's so cool. Isn't that nice? The last light of the sun just fading on her. And here she comes. Very little is causing or having any consternation at her. There's not much alarm calling going on. How magnificent. She's coming straight towards us. Oh, wow. Now, Marissa, you're just 10 years old and wondering how many leopards we see here. Well, here we see this very special leopard called Inkanyeni. Hello, my dear. You look like you're in need of a bit of a meal. We see, you can count them, Marissa. I'll just name them for you. We see Inkanyeni, we see Tandi, we see Tandi Santamba, we see Shongile and Hosana, who are not related to this chap except distantly. We see Tingana, the big male. We see Shadow and her little cub. We sometimes see a chap called Gijima. We sometimes see Quarantine, who has been her, well, they've been mating. We sometimes see a chap called Shivambalana. So how many is that so far? You can count them and tell me, Maritza. Wasn't that special watching her come along the road like that? And walk not 2 feet from the edge of the door? Now you see, she will disappear into this grass in seconds. Oh, it's wonderful. Jeffrey, you know, I was thinking exactly the same thing, and I thought to myself, but she doesn't, because, you know, I don't remember the last time. Oh, what's she got? She might be stalking something, because I remember the last time I saw her thinking she was quite stocky, but I totally agree with you. She has a dainty face. You're absolutely right. All right, we're going to try and stay with her. Obviously, you've got to be very, very careful now, because the chances of giving her a fright when you can't see what she's doing are high. She's right in here. So I'm just going to be very, very careful. We might lose her, but we've had a wonderful sighting, and 3 leopards in one day are not to be sneezed at. She's... Yes, you can see again. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but you can see why these things are so hard to find. You got it? Reverse. Oh, okay, got it. Well spotted. Look at her tattered ears, and I keep forgetting how old she is, but I think she's 13 as well. I I don't think she's a youngster. Now, there was a steenbok that we unfortunately flushed not far from here before she came along the road. Maybe you can just hear the Cape turtle dove in the background going, "Broop, broop, 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 broop," adding to the perfection of what is a quintessentially magnificent African scene. You still got her there, Seb?
No, I lost
Not really. There she is. I got her there. We'll just ease our way through here. These trees, Ormocarpum, Tripocarpum, are flicking up behind us, don't worry. You can see they're very powerful. Must be quite difficult, although you're beautifully hidden in grass like this. It's not easy for you to actually see any prey, I imagine. Oh, look. Shelley, you say has Vutomi left her already? Vutomi is her youngster. I think he's... I don't see them often enough to remember their ages. I think he's about a year old. And you say, has he left already? No, he hasn't. He's quite often seen with her. And I think they were on a kill together. In fact, they had Vutomi this afternoon, as well as in Kanyeni. So... no, he hasn't left her, but he's going into that sort of semi-independent stage. Now, she's looking very skinny. There's a wonderful Afrikaans word, and that Afrikaans word is skraal. And it just very nicely describes that sort of look. It's not quite, it's skinny, and it's also in need of a meal. And a little bit tattered are her ears. Otherwise she's looking pretty good. Now again, we need to be careful that we don't make a noise behind her and flush anything that might be in front of her, or give it some sort of indication that, you know, there's something worth looking at this way. So we will keep our distance, and if we lose her, well, that's all right. She's going through some slightly more open terrain through here. Watch the little head there, Sebastian. Beautiful. The colour is just lovely, isn't it? Gold, copper, much more copper than most of the leopards we see. And she belongs to a very famous lineage, well famous from where I come from Londolozi. There was a leopard there called the Sunset Bend female, and she gave rise, and probably was given rise to by her parents, but she gave rise to this very golden lineage, and much more gold than, say, the lineage of Karula, which is very honey-coloured. Now just look below her eye there, above her nose, you can see 4 spots. Now in Kanyeni is a 4-3 female. She's got 4 spots there and 3 on the other side. But them ears is pretty much unmistakable. And we often asked, how do you identify the different leopards? Well, of course, many of our regular viewers will recognize them on sight. And certainly you get to that stage if you see them often enough. But if you don't, well, then you've got to look for their spots. And of course, this leopardess has got a 4-3 spot pattern, but she's also got those tatty ears. You're just listening perhaps for a scrubhare or a steenbok or a duiker to go wandering by unawares, and then she'll just gently sink down into the grass and make a meal of it. Ah, Waltheria, very nice. The flower that never stops giving. You're looking a little bit tired, my dear. Are you tired? So, in case she stays there, I'm just going to move around the corner. No, I'm not. I'm going to wait here. Go ahead, Ralph. I am Ralph. She's in some thick stuff north of Central Road. Now Tristan is feeling slightly religious this afternoon, and he would like to share that with you now.
I am. I'm not sure that is entirely true, James, but I know other James would like to know what Africa Day means to us, so we might as well start talking about that, because I was going to show you a stick insect that is now flown away. It seems like it is that afternoon where everything that we want to show you just disappears, from the lions to the stick insects and varying other things. Well, I suppose Africa Day to me, I haven't really given it much thought today, but just sort of off the cuff, I would say, Africa is one of probably the most special places in the world. It's got many cultures, types of people, ethnicities. It's just the most incredible place to live, and there's so much vibrance and so much to experience throughout Africa and to celebrate that and to be a part of that is always a very, very special thing. And to call Africa home is probably one of the most amazing things. Now, Ferg, just be careful of the buffalo thorn, otherwise you're going to hate Africa this afternoon. But to me, it's just that there's just so much diversity, so many different kinds of people, so many characters, so many different cultures and religions and tribes and all of these things, and it all mixes into one, and it is some of the most incredible landscapes in the world. And to be able to, like I say, be a part of that and live that and feel all of that vibrancy is just one of the most incredible things. And I count myself very lucky to be part of Africa and to have grown up in Africa and live this every single day. What do you think, Ferg? Also?
Much agreed, eh?
Much agreed. So I think you speak to any person that comes from Africa and they'll all tell you that even though you can go outside of Africa and there's many things in Africa that are not ideal and things that we really, we complain about and we worry about, and there's poverty and there's all these kind of things, but any person that you take out of Africa and you go and talk to them, there'll always be some part of them that will miss being part of this continent and being back home. There's something that is so special about this, and often we get guests, well, when I was guiding, I had guests that would come here and they say that it almost gets into your blood, and once it's in your blood, you just crave it every single time you go home, and you always want to come back again. And so for me, that sort of celebration of all of that, and then on top of that, the diversity in terms of wildlife that we have, and to be able to do the job that I do, and to be able to be out here and share all of this with you guys is just the biggest gift that anybody could give us. And so we are so fortunate to have this on our doorstep and to be able to live every single day where we're busy walking through an area, tracking lions and trying to find them and getting frustrated by mantids and stick insects that are invading us is quite a special thing. So, it's to celebrate Africa is always a good thing, and I think just to have one day to celebrate it is really not enough. We need more than that, and I hope that everybody else out there that watches this and all of our staff and everything like that would also feel the same about it, because it is a magical place to live. Right, that being said, enough being soppy, it's still time to find lions. We're still looking. The last tracks we had were going southeast. We've checked everywhere. We've walked through monkey orange thickets, through buffalo thorn thickets. We've gone through everywhere. Ferg and I have been scraped about, but yet no luck. So we're hoping now it's this time that maybe, just maybe, one of them will call or something will alarm call and help us out. But while we do that, let's go across to Jamie Patterson, who's always so eloquent with words, and find out what Africa means to her.
Oh gosh, Tristan, the last few days See, even the hippos are laughing at me. I was going to say that in the last few days I haven't been particularly elegant with words at all. It's just one of those things. the end of a couple of long weeks, the brain starts to get a little bit fried. So what does Africa mean to me? Oh, it's so difficult to sum up. I agree with Tristan. Africa means home. Oh, let's not look at me for this, Craig. Let's look at the pretty view. I think it's much nicer than my face desperately trying to scrabble for words. Africa means home. Africa means freedom, space, unpredictability, chaos, beauty. Chaos and beauty side by side. And of course, I like older animals as well. Lots of nice animals. No, it's hard to really sum up what Africa means to me. It's so vast, it's so huge. Certainly where I feel is home, certainly where I'm from. Disorganized, but beautifully so. Unsanitary, but again beautifully so. I use sanitary in the sort of the term of there's very little organization. There's no pattern. It's random. Well, I guess there are huge patterns, but it's random and chaotic. And sometimes it's hard, like the fact that there are only 6 goslings now instead of 8. So I guess there's brutality in Africa as well, in a way. Sadness. But sadness that's completely overshadowed by the happiness that it brings. Like the fact that in Africa, they'll stop traffic for a family of Egyptian geese crossing the road, which they did once years ago when I was still in Johannesburg. I was driving through the city and I was listening to the radio, and a major highway, a major motorway was stopped because a family of Egyptian geese were walking across it. And everybody banded together to make sure that the traffic stopped. Everybody stopped their cars, taxi drivers, public transport, buses, and just general citizens. The Bambi effect. And Africa's about her people as well. It's not just about the animals. There are some truly amazing stories out there. I wonder what Africa means to these guys. Grass. Lots of grass. The occasional leopard to run away from. Okay, speaking of Africa, yes, survival, absolutely. Africa is survival. Alright, there we go. I've thrown out all the adjectives. You can string them together in whichever order you feel makes the most sense. Pretend that I did it for you. Speaking of Africa and iconic sounds, I think that Craig and myself should start making our way back to where those lions are somewhere. They're there somewhere. We're going to go and find them, especially if they're going to start roaring shortly. It's getting dark, the sun is setting, and there's a good chance that that's what they are going to be doing in the not-too-distant future. So that's what we're going to do. I was really hoping that the elephants would come down to drink. I saw them walking in this direction, but they haven't. So I'm going to go and find a lion instead. James is having an amazing afternoon. Let's go back to him and the gorgeous Nkanyeni.
James got seriously lucky today, as did Sebastian. So we'll take it, say thank you very much to the universe, and revel in it while we answer James's question. What does Africa mean to you? Well, I guess it's a dreadfully horrible cliche, but I guess Africa means home to me. It's where I was born, it's where I've grown up, and that means many different things. To say what does Africa mean to me, I could probably keep sort of yakking away for about an hour on it. But it's conflicted, you know. It's a harsh place in many respects. It is, from a wilderness point of view, of course, I think it's probably unparalleled. It feels like we were born on the soil as a species, and it feels like we belong here in many ways. And so that's very strong when I come into these wilderness areas. That wonderful thing that I've shared with you before, that I heard from David White initially, and that he took from a North American elder, or North American Native American, he describes how there's that feeling in the wilderness where the wilderness will just as soon find you as it will kill you, will just as soon feed you as it will kill you. It is not here to sort of care for us. And it's that feeling of, I don't know that words can sufficiently convey what that means to me, and how that completely describes how I feel about our wilderness areas, that they are in many respects harsh places, but they're unspeakably beautiful and feed us in innumerable ways at the same time. So that's what the wilderness areas mean to me. And then, of course, the countries of Africa are a legacy of enormous conflict. We cannot ignore the really appalling history that many of them have had, from colonialism and slavery to civil wars to genocide. But at the same time, the African people somehow just come out of it and survive and thrive and live and get on with life. And that speaks tremendously to the spirit of humanity in general, but of course of Africans themselves. And then, I mean, Seb, you're from Gabon, and what does it mean to you? Tell me if you can hear, Seb, otherwise I shall translate.
Africa means home, like you said. But it's, I don't know how to explain it. It's in your blood. It's you breathe it, you feel it. I can't imagine myself living anywhere else but Africa.
Well, that's it. Yeah, you can't imagine living anywhere else but here. And it's funny, I'm about to go off to Italy next week for a little while. My parents and I and my brother and sister and various others we're going off to, for a little soiree in Europe. And it's in a rural area. It's not wilderness. And I know what I'll feel there. I will feel a kind of exhalation of the tension that is inherent in being in Africa. And it will be a respite from it. But after a while I will miss it, and I will miss the just the sense of wildness that there is around here. And then, I mean, we could address it while Nkanyeni is asleep. Of course, I'm a white African, aren't I? And that brings with it all sorts of complications and difficulties and legacies. And what's she got? She thinks she's it's odd. Maybe she's just got a fly biting her. And that's a difficult one because, of course, we have a real trying history here, especially in South Africa. And so that's extra complication that we as white Africans have to deal with and we must embrace. And so it's a complicated question to answer. But essentially it feels like home. It is home. It's not like we could live anywhere else, really. Righty, well, this leopard is about to go to sleep, and I think Tristan would like to do the same.
Well, indeed, unfortunately, it's gotten to that time of the day where it's time for us to start heading home. The sun has dipped behind the horizon and it's starting to get quite dark, especially when you consider that there are lions in the area. Probably better that we start moving out and start heading home. So it's been an absolute pleasure, and hopefully we'll find these lions. Maybe you never know, on the way back we might bump into them somewhere, but I know Jamie will keep on looking for them. But that's all from us. We're going to, like I say, head back, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning for the sunrise safari. But let's head across to Brent in the Mara and see how he's doing and whether he's found anything more that's exciting.
And I'm so tangled. I'm sorry, guys. We're with Buffalo, but I don't know how I'm going to get out of this tangle I've created for myself with all these cables and whatnot. Okay, I've escaped my tangle. Okay, so we're just below the most stupendous spot in Africa, Angama Mara, and of course the safariLIVE camp. And we're with a big herd of buffalo that's been hanging around here for the last couple of days. And it is truly an absolutely magical day. Dave and I have had a blast. We've been out since before dawn, and we're about to head up the hill into camp for some fruit juice. And I just thought it'd be a nice thing because today is actually Africa Day. And you can't get much more African than the African bush, and you're getting to experience two of the most iconic spots in Africa simultaneously. Well, not simultaneously, but at the same time via safariLIVE. And I thought it quite fitting that we are just below an area called Out of Africa, where the movie was filmed. So there we go. Isn't that just too special? But can you believe it? 2 cheetah hunts in a day, unfortunately, not successful, but there's always tomorrow. And we will be out again in search of the wonders of the Mara. And as the sun dips below the Olololo escarpment, we're going to dip, or not dip, we're going to climb over and above it. And we will look forward to seeing you all tomorrow again for an exciting safari. But remember, it's not over yet. You can carry on with James and Jamie in the Sabi Sands for the next while. Hopefully they find lots of... Well, I know James is with leopards, and he's with my favorite female leopard, and hopefully Jamie finds some lions. So let's go across to the incredibly beautiful Nkanyeni.
Not entirely sure what Jamie Patterson would think about Brent calling this his favourite female. But I won't tell her if you don't. We're just moving slightly closer. There we go. Now, I'm going to tell you that when the light fades, even if she does get up, because she's skinny and we've had a wonderful sighting of her, I'm not going to follow her in the dark because I think that we will have an adverse effect on any hunt that she might have. So as it does get dark, we are going to leave her. I'm not going to put light on her. I mean, we could sit and watch her in infrared while she slept. That's no problem. We can do that. But if she does start to move, I'm not going to follow her from here. She is an aged leopard, and she's looking very hungry. But she's still been killing regularly, you know. I mean, we regularly hear reports of her on a kill with Futomi at various places. She was on a kill with Futomi in Nkoro the other day. And a couple of ticks on her head, I think. But she's very, very sleepy. Just back to that Africa topic, you know, it's so funny how, not funny, it's touching how so many people come out here and they have this feeling like they've come home. And, you know, the scientist in me says, well, that's just purely psychological. They've read it somewhere and they feel like they should. They've watched Out of Africa too often. When the other side of me, the slightly more human side of me, and it is a slight side, of course, says, well, that's because we're all from here originally. And so there's a little piece of Africa in every one of us. And that's what we feel the connection to when we touch down on African soil. Probably not so much when you get out at Oliver Tambo International Airport in Johannesburg, but certainly when you touch down, especially if you fly into the wild, you know, if you fly into the Mara out of Nairobi, I mean, Nairobi you can keep as you can keep Johannesburg, but if you fly out of those areas into a wilderness area and you leave the city behind and then land suddenly in these iconic wildlife, excuse me, oh dear, I think I inhaled a grass seed. Right, go. You can see Nkanyeni is vaguely fazed by this. But it's amazing how you get out of the plane, you walk down, and you smell the air for the first time, and you feel that first either wave of heat in the summer or a taste of dust in the wintertime, and you think, oh, that's something. That really is quite something. And, you know, down the road at Londolozi, which is about, 7 or 8 kilometres from where we are now as the crow flies, people pay unholy amounts of money to go back there again and again and again and again. Because, yes, obviously the guest experience there is fantastic, but there's just something about being in a place like that that makes people feel like they have to come back, like they cannot get enough of it. And I'm sure it's the same at many of these places. It just happens to be one of the ones I've worked at. Nkanyeni obviously feels very at home here. That's why she's going to sleep. It's fine. And I've watched Karula do exactly the same thing. I've watched her come into an area like this and sort of do her territorial marking in the last light of the sun, which is what Nkanyeni did. And then, just as you'd expect her to go hunting, lie down and go to sleep for 2 hours and not move. It really does amaze me. I mean, I would imagine this was ideal hunting condition. But perhaps she knows better. You know, she is the leopard, after all. I'm rather hoping a duiker in search of some moist grass will come wandering past here. Alrighty, I'm going to give this cat another 5 or 10 minutes to get up. If she doesn't, then we're going to press on and see what else we can find. And in the meantime, Jamie is hoping for much the same reaction from the bigger and very much in love cats that Tristan found this morning.
I am indeed hoping that the very much in love cats will get up and do something. Roar, mate, either of those things I will hear, and then we will be able to find them. James's toy about getting on a plane or arriving in Africa. I remember when I left, because I moved to the UK for 3 years, and I left the reserve, the very first reserve I ever worked in. And this man who was sitting next to me, didn't know him at all. This man who was sitting next to me was watching me, obviously, and he said to me in a very, very strong Afrikaans accent that I'm not going to imitate because it'll sound like I'm mocking him, and I'm not at all. He looked at me and he said, how big was the piece of your heart that you just left there? I will never forget that moment. Naturally, I then bawled all over him, and the poor man did not know what he'd got himself into, and he looked utterly terrified and then gave me a handkerchief. I offered to give it back to him afterwards, and he politely declined. It was very sweet. And I remember that moment very strongly, and I remember the moment that the wheels of the plane touched back down when I moved back here. Right, lions, give us a roar. I don't quite know. I'm just doing circles around and around and around where we think they are. My one concern is that if it is Tinyo, I assume it is. Apparently that was who Tristan saw this morning. Tinyo. It was Tinyo. Tinyo. Mfumo roars as the sun goes down. Almost every time. Tinyo, on the other hand, if he's with Mfumo, he apps, or any of the other Birmingham boys, he roars with them. But he's not inclined towards early activity, let's put it that way. He is the equivalent of a teenager first thing in the morning. He's not so keen on the whole getting up and being wide awake thing. It takes him a little while. Right, let's see. If we sit and watch these impala, and what on earth is that? Oh my goodness, I know what that was. Craig, get ready, and get ready to move fast. I think I just saw a honey badger. Okay. Please, 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 this side. Just ran through the grass. There it is. Got it. Look at that! Hey! How cool is that? Hey! Hi! Hi! You were such a pleasant surprise. It's gonna run, but let's try for one more view. Oh man, how epic is that? I'm glad to see my identification skills haven't gone completely out of the window. Okay, it's probably gonna have run off, but let's try. I don't want to get too close. You got it? Rusty, now's not the time. Ah, okay. We'll have to let it disappear. That's about as good a honey badger sighting as you're ever likely to get from the vehicle. Cool, man. See? How was that for a surprise? Totally unexpected. I love those creatures. Ah, I'm so chuffed. It's been so long since I've seen a honey badger. For our new viewers, that is not a common occurrence. Oh, I'm so happy. I haven't seen one in months. Ah, man, I'm happy. That's made my day. Even if we don't find those lions, James is having an equally good afternoon.
I am, everybody, and I've decided that we are going to leave this kitty. She's having a very, very, very hard snooze right now. Well, see if she gets up now. But you can see the light is going. And I don't think there's a huge amount of point sitting with her. Sorry, she's not a 4-3 female, she's a 4-4 female. That's right, there's 4, and there are 4 on the other side, I remember now. Tandi's 3-3, and Nkanyeni is 4-4. With fluffy, tatty ears. Alex, a good question. You say, do leopards have any predators? Yes, they do, Alex. Nkanyeni's predators would be strange male leopards who might take some sort of dislike to her. Certainly that does happen from time to time, as Tingana will attest to. He ate a female leopard the other day. Largely it would be lions, though, and hyenas. So lions and hyenas would certainly kill her if they could. They may or may not eat her, but they would certainly kill her. So, strictly speaking, would anyone hunt her for food? Probably not. Would anything hunt her because of competition? Yes, definitely. Lions and leopards will absolutely have a go at her, as would wild dogs. I don't think wild dogs, if they caught a leopard like this, would eat her, though. And I've seen her and Vutomi chased up trees by 3 wild dogs. It just took 3 of them to treat 2 leopards. And, whether you could call that strictly predation or not, I don't know. I'll probably not. All right, she is now fast asleep, and so we're going to let her be. We've had a wonderful, wonderful sighting of her. So let's press on and see what the evening holds. Goodbye, and thank you. Happy Africa Day. May it be filled with the demise of perhaps an antelope or something for you to eat. I'm astounded that those lions haven't pitched up. I wonder if they didn't move, or they must have moved off sometime during the day. Very unusual lion behavior. And perhaps something to do with the fact that the female with Tristan this morning was a stranger. We don't know who she was. And maybe she's headed back towards wherever her pride is. Hello, George. What a fascinating question. You say, is there any animal out here that has an adaptation or ability that I would want? Many. Many. I would like to be so I'd love to have the power to mass ratio of something like a baboon. They are very powerful climbers and obviously very strong for their size, as are leopards. I'd love to have the flexibility of a cheetah. I'd love my spine to be as flexible as a cheetah's. What else would I like? I would love to have the patience, I suppose, of an elephant. What else? Well, obviously I'd like to be able to fly. I'd love to be able to fly like a martial eagle. That would be wonderful. And I would like to be able to smell like a hyena. and hear like a wild dog. I'd like to be able to taste like a human being. I don't want to taste like anything else. I don't mean, of course, being eaten. I mean the ability to taste. I would like to... I'm happy with the sort of general look of the human being. So I wouldn't like to be spotted or anything like that. Wouldn't mind being able to photosynthesize, for example. That'd be quite fun. And you wouldn't have to eat too much. It'd be quite nice to have maybe just a small green patch on my arm. And then if I wasn't near a restaurant that served delightful food, well, then it wouldn't matter. Oh dear. I'm afraid in the tumultuous rush to pick Jigger up today after we swapped on to Wendy and back again, I have managed to forget my spotlight. But that's okay. We've had such a good day that I don't suppose it's going to matter too much. We've got the other lights too, so if we do see something astounding, that will be alright. We've also got our infrared up, so I'm not going to worry. What other adaptations would I like? No, I think that's probably about it, really. There is a fiery-necked nightjar. That was, of course, a wild guess. I don't know if you saw the nightjar, but I've often heard guests, guides driving along the road go, "Oh, fiery-necked nightjar." A nightjar is almost impossible to identify unless you hear it call, or unless you can catch it and look at the markings on its tail and on its wings. Neither of well, if it calls you can do that, but it's not very nice to catch them. Just check what's going on the radio. Right, no, nothing. So those are the adaptations I would like, but I'm really not sure what else there'd be. I would be fascinated to know what Jamie Patterson would like from an adaptation point of view, so perhaps you can ask her now.
I will answer that in a second. I just saw something move back there, but I think it was another impala. Yeah, I think it was an impala. I think these guys would be shouting if it was a lion. So, James has taken all the best ones, hasn't he? I mean, he's done sight, he's done smell, he's done flight. I'm struggling with it. Do we only get to choose one? I mean, I know James chose everyone, but what would I choose? I guess if I had to choose one heightened sense, I'd probably take hearing. I think it would be awesome to hear like some of the animals can hear. Hearing like a wild dog, I think James said. The ability to turn around in my own skin like a honey badger is also would be pretty useful. Although it might be a bit weird. Would definitely look a bit weird. Don't agree with the photosynthesizing at all. That's what eating is for. That's why eating is fun. I also agree with the strength to weight ratio of a leopard. Having spent my entire life wishing I was built with in a slightly more stocky manner, so that people would stop saying things like, "Are you sure you can hold that gun?" And then I'd snap quickly, "It's a rifle." And yes, I'm pretty sure I can. But strength to weight ratio, I think, would be epic. I still want a tail, though. I know it's weird. Fergus agreed with me. He's the only person I've ever met that's ever agreed with me on that. I think having a tail would be awesome. Provided it was normal, and you were not the only person with a tail. Oh, Lou agrees with me as well. There we go. Prehensile monkey tail. Be epic. I'd like to be able to see in the dark as well, actually. Rusty, now's not the time not to go into reverse. Thank you. I'll pretend I didn't get as frustrated as I did there for a second. No, she always does that. She's horrible to get into reverse. Is that a log? Yeah, it must be. It doesn't look this way. I was so hoping it was a lion. Where's my... Oh, definitely a log, isn't it, Craig? Yeah. It is loggish. You're right. See? The ability to see in the dark. That is what I would like. Yeah. Joe Biceps, you and I share something in common. Our giant biceps. Joe Biceps, you want to know what time would we consider to be the best for animals being out? Now. Now is the best time for animals to be out. Now, and that brief moment of sort of grey light before the dawn. The best thing is winter. That's why we see more things like honey badgers, in theory porcupines and aardvarks. Winter is a good time because the nocturnal creatures come out much earlier because it's cooler. So winter is a really good time, and this time of day, to see things. First thing, you cannot be a late riser. If you want to work in the bush, if you want to come on holiday to the bush and you want to see some awesome things, if you want to sleep in, you're in the wrong place. The best time is dawn and dusk. It's the changing of the guard, as Brent calls it. Maritza, that was a really nice way of wording it. You want to know if anyone can have the opportunity to do what we do. Yes, I would hope so. I don't think it's all that easy, especially for people that come from another country to try and come into Africa to get work visas. It requires a huge amount of dedication, and it's difficult. It's red tape, and it's not easy. I've got my very, very close friend who's still going through the whole process to try and stay in this country. So it is hard. I feel very fortunate to have had the opportunities I have, but in theory there's nothing to stop you. I mean, I'm not built like your traditional safari guide, but it doesn't matter. There's nothing about this job that needs serious strength. Provided you can change a tire, you're fine. Yes, I would say anyone could have the opportunity. You have to be willing to sacrifice, though. And you'll have to be willing to have people tell you that you're completely crazy, because they will. And it will become your entire life. You have to live it. It's not a job, it's a life. There are Nyala and Impala, and everything is perfectly happy here. Mariska, if you are really interested in it, you're welcome to send through a message, and I'd be more than happy to give you details as to exactly how you can go about it. It's not always the easiest path, but it's possible for everyone. Aww, William, who is 7 years old and from Oregon. William would like to know, so would we ever go to Oregon to see the animals there? William, I would love to go to Oregon. I would love to come and visit you. If I come to Oregon, William, can I come and stay with you? Will you show me the animals that you have there? Because I don't know anything about them, so you'd have to teach me all the different and show me all the different animals. So if one day, William, again, I'll be sure to contact your parents, and you'll have to show me which way to go. One day when I'm big, William. What's your favorite animal, William, in Oregon? What's your favorite animal that you see there? That's what I would like to know. Do you have a favorite animal? I love the fact that we've got kids watching. I'm so grateful to all of the parents out there who have shared the safariLIVE experience with their kids. There's something very special about that. Thank you. Okay, lions, where are you? Okay, this is now the 5th circuit I have done here. Tino hasn't made a sound. The lioness is not going to roar unless he does, because she is not from around here, apparently. Tristan says she's definitely not a Styx, and Lex has got all of the Nkuhumas on Buffelshoek. Hook. I just need to actually speak to Lex. Lex for Jamie. Lex, will you keep us updated if those animals start moving south? Copy that, thank you. Now, Captain somebody. Sorry, I was talking to Lex at the time your name came through. Captain Parker. Right, Captain Parker would like to say that, or said, that the predators seem unfazed by the vehicles. Why are they not afraid? They would be if they'd never seen a safari vehicle before, and we do occasionally get the odd skittish animal that comes through. So it does happen. But because these animals have grown up with safari vehicles, they don't associate us with a threat. We're not food, we're not a threat, we just are. And we don't bother them, and through years of ethical guiding, or as close to ethical guiding as we possibly can get, they've become very, very relaxed around the safari vehicles. And we're very lucky for that, and it's actually quite important. We underestimate how important it was, or is. If every animal here ran away from the safari vehicles, tourists would not come here, and the lodges would not flourish, and the money would not come in. Bush baby! Bush babies! ×2! Aw, little bush babies. Where's Beckles? Beckles is in Kenya. Rebecca loves bush babies. Can you see it there, Craig? No, maybe not. Try a little bit lower. Below that sticky out branch. The one that's in front of it. There-ish. There-ish. Up a little bit. There, center now. There you go. You got it. Hello. It's a little bush baby. There we go. A little bit. Oh, William, I really look forward to having elephant pancakes one day with you. William's favorite animal, or one of his favorite animals, he really, really likes bumblebees. Thank you, William. I love pancakes, and I think elephant pancakes would probably be the best ever. I've never had an elephant pancake before. Thank you very much, William. That's very kind of you. These bush babies, there's 2 of them, and they're jumping all over the show. There's one, Craig. It's going to be a lot more visible. It is, yes, where those go, zoom in a little bit. There. Well done. What you got? You eating something? You can see his little mouth moving. This is a lesser galago, or bush baby, and it is absolutely minute, and one of the cutest creatures that we get out here. Look at you go. A nocturnal primate that eats insects and tree sap, related to the lorises. It's there, just behind those dead leaves there. Well, there's 2 actually, but the one closest is the one behind the dead leaves. There it is, you can just see it moving. And not a peep from the lions. Oh well. Bush babies and honey badgers will definitely do. think that's it for our bush baby sighting. I'll just give it 2 more seconds and then we'll call it. Yeah, they're moving further back. Ooh. Yeah, okay. Done. Lady Starfire, I'm nodding because there's lots of places in Africa that I would love to go and that I haven't been to yet. I don't know why, and I'm not quite sure what it is exactly. If I had to choose, if somebody said to me, I'm going to pay for you to go somewhere, now, go, off you go. I mean, that is happening to me basically. I'm going to Kenya in a few weeks. No, a few days. I would go to Ethiopia. I really would love to see, I think it stems from a childhood book that I read when I was young about the red wolf of Ethiopia, the most endangered canid in Africa. Hello, scrub horsey, little scrub hare. And I would really love to go and visit the historical Nile sites. Oh, it's got, I don't know why, I find that something fascinating in the history and the culture and the, all through that section of Ethiopia where there's just these ancient civilizations. So I guess I'd really like to go to Ethiopia if I had to choose. But that's a really difficult choice. I'm tired of this loop now. We're done. These lions are not moving. I can't drive this loop one more time. I've done it 4 times now. I mean, once gave us the honey badger, so I'm not complaining. Craig, where would you go in Africa?
If I could go anywhere?
If you could go anywhere in Africa?
To look or
Just to visit.
I'm not pretty sure. Maybe Ghana.
Okay. Craig says Ghana or around that area. I'm going to let him think about it some more. James is on his way back from Cheetah Plains, I'm sure with a big smile on his face.
My big smile, everybody. I am returned from Cheetah Plains to Djuma. You can see I'm in high spirits in comparison with this morning after we'd lost all signal and found 2 hippopotamus, where my spirits were, well, somewhere in my big toes at the time. Right, places to go in Africa. Where would I like to go in Africa? Well, yes, Ethiopia, definitely. Absolutely, I'd love to go there. I'd quite like to go to the Atlas Mountains for some reason. I'd quite like to go up there and see what that's all about. And I've always had a yen to go on a long sort of, I don't know, a 10-day horse trek through the Sahara Desert. I've always felt that might be quite fun. So those were 3 things that I'd quite like to do in Africa. Seb?
You won't hear me from here, but
I will translate.
I would love to go to Rwanda and see the gorillas.
Rwanda and gorillas, yes.
Then number 2 would be like through the desert, but in Mauritania.
In Mauritania.
I've heard there's a lot of beautiful tracks there.
Okay. In Mauritania. Okay.
So yeah, that would be my closest.
Mauritania and Rwanda. I would, yes, I suppose I would like to go to both of those places as well. Although it's not easy travel, is it? I mean, I imagine getting into and out of Mauritania is probably not very easy. Not regular flights. Is Mauritania French speaking?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
Or francophone. Oh. Oh boy, you're asking a question now. You say, why did humans evolve in Africa and nowhere else? Well, boy, it's because I guess this is where the ancestors of all humans, of all hominins lived. We came from a common ancestor to the chimpanzee about 5 million years ago. Our lineage split from theirs. And there were various members of that lineage that went to different parts of the world. And it just so happened that, the specific random genetic mutations that occurred in our lineage were suited to the African environment. Now, there's no real reason why it shouldn't have happened somewhere else. Why it shouldn't have happened in Asia, in Southeast Asia, or in South America, or in Australia, but it didn't. And it's a really interesting question you ask, because we know the evolutionary story plus minus of humanity, but why it didn't occur anywhere else is an interesting one, because of course we know that many species have adapted or have co-evolved in different parts of the world, unrelated, but they've evolved to fill the same ecological niches, and they've evolved the same adaptations. And the best example that I can think of right now, of course, is the hummingbird and the sunbird, both of which are bird species we get here, at least one of which we get here. Both of them have long beaks, and they are nectar feeders from flowers, but they're not related to each other. And so that's an example of what we call or convergent evolution. I can never remember which one it is. So why it is that human beings did not adapt, or that did not evolve, or something equivalent to a human being didn't evolve in other parts of the world, difficult to say, other than the fact that, of course, the common ancestor from us and the great apes 5 million years ago didn't occur anywhere else. Why did it not occur anywhere else? Well, I guess the niche, perhaps, here's an explanation for you. I guess the niche that it occupied in the forests of wherever they were around Africa were occupied in other parts of the world by other primates, and so there wasn't any pressure or any space for the evolution of different species. So that's a basic answer for why I think that they evolved in Africa and nowhere else in the world. And then, of course, there is quite a lot of debate over a number of ancient humans, Homo floresiensis from the island of Flores near Indonesia, in the Indonesian archipelago. There was a human being that did evolve there, but of course its ancestor was an African. Its ancestor, if I'm not mistaken, was Homo erectus or habilis, and it evolved from that on the isolated island of Flores in the Indonesian archipelago. And so that's quite interesting. But all of the ancestors, came from Africa, and various species radiated out from here. Homo erectus went all over much of the world. Certainly went into the Far East. Homo habilis did quite the same, I think, maybe not quite as far. Obviously, Homo neanderthalis, the Neanderthal man, famous, went up into Europe and spent a lot of time there, and was wiped out by us when we arrived. And so all the ancestors did come from Africa, and they evolved here, I guess, just because the ecological niche was available to the adaptations that occurred. I hope that answers your question. Let's head across to Jamie, who's sitting roughly, I'd say about 75 meters from where I am.
I am indeed. I can even hear James's voice from where I'm sitting. Unfortunately, 2 seconds ago, there was a hyena in there. Obviously, as you can see, there is no longer a hyena sticking its head out. The cubs ducked back beneath into its tunnel, and I think it's digging. I can see this sort of fine dust floating out. Is it steam? It could be steam. It's probably very warm in there. Probably very warm and humid. Okay. I don't actually want to stay here because Ribbon's not here. I don't want that cub to feel brave and bold and come out because I don't know where those lions are, but our search wasn't far from where we're sitting at the moment. If Ribbon was here and in infrared, I wouldn't feel bad at all because we're not shining any spotlights on them. We're just sitting and enjoying the view in infrared. But with the lions here and without Ribbon, I don't want the cubs to... I just don't want them to come out and be too brave. It's a balancing act, though, because the quickest way to habituate that older cub is actually in the dark. They're going to feel... It is going to feel far more comfortable with us at night than it does during the day. It's exactly the same thing with skittish leopards. They just know that they own the night, basically. They know that they are much more at home when it's dark, and they know they can see very well. But it's not out, and I think it's best with the lions on the prowl that we move. I can't, you know. Rusty's key won't turn. You know, there's a certain inevitability to that. Really. Rusty, we've had words about this trick before. Ah! Brute force. Brute force is always the way. Wouldn't, of course, have worked with Wendy. Let's find out how James feels about that.
I feel nothing but negativity towards our vehicles right now. I feel zero positivity to them whatsoever. And if Rusty had broken down there, well, I don't know. It would have been very hard for me to try and go and rescue her. I'd have gone to fetch Jamie, and I'd have gone to fetch... who's on camera with her? It's Craig. I'd have gone to fetch them, no problem. But the car could have stayed there for the rest of its days, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if you heard the trials of Wendy today, but we got onto her after Opar fixed the clutch, and we set her up, and Anwar worked tirelessly to put the radio back on and the monitor back in, and turn the key. No, nothing. Just a churning over of the engine. And so the repeat process happened in vastly fast reverse. And that's why I'm afraid I stupidly forgot my spotlight, for which I apologize profusely. Hello, Stacey. You say there any foods we miss being out here in the bush? Well, you know, a diet of grass seeds, the odd piece of rotting impala carcass that we find, and one or two seeds and pods from the acacia trees can get a bit tiresome, but you get used to it after a while. Stacey, we eat very, very well here. There's a town not far from here, and there's a large supermarket there that brings in a delivery of just about anything we want every week. So no, there are no foods I miss. I suggest that you ask Brent the same thing the next time you see him, because the camp there is much, much further away from any sort of town than we are here, and the town that there is really is not known for its sort of what should we say, more sophisticated first world cuisine. And so while they're setting it up, I mean, some of the pictures of the meals they've been eating have been quite horrendous, and apparently they've survived largely on a diet of cabbage. So I do think that you should ask Brent about that. I've no doubt he will tell you a hilarious story about living on a diet of cabbage and offal. I don't think it's quite that bad, but certainly when they first went up there, it wasn't easy. We were hoping to infrared a few animals around here, but alas, that possibility has eluded us. Well, there's some impala, but we've only got 30 seconds left, so rather than blind them, I think I'm just going to bid you a fond good evening. Thank you for coming on Drive with us. I don't suppose it was too much of a trial. It wasn't too much of a trial for us. We had amazing action. It was really a spectacular drive. Thank you, Sebastian, for your efforts today. And a big thank you to Luis in the final control, and of course Chantel. We will see you tomorrow at 06:30. Until then, bye-bye.